So Mike's YouTube is so.
Let me see if that works.
They have a
Can we be heard now?
Yeah,
it looks like we are.
Looks like it.
I don't know why that would have changed. I don't know what we didn't change anything.
It's back. It says back.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay says
back.
Back.
Let's get more confirmation than that. All right. Okay. Are we?
We know Facebook is cool.
Is it an echo or anything, or is it clear?
We know Facebook is good because y'all just hearing us through the laptop. We have all of our mics and our earpieces hooked up to the other computer, so it's going to affect YouTube. So
I just want to make sure there's a clear sound, not an echo sound. That we had problems with that maybe a few like months ago. All right, perfect. Okay, I don't understand why that happened because we didn't mess with the settings.
No, something changes.
That doesn't
every
make any
day,
sense.
every show, even though we don't mess with the settings. I don't know, man. That's the deep state trying to shut down our show.
They broke in.
Yeah, man.
They broke in and just messed with like one setting, just to mess with us.
Or we get hacked like DNC computers, man. Like DNC servers, man. We get hacked.
Man.
I don't know if I'm surprised I said that with a straight face.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I hope everybody had a good weekend. Just like I said, I did not partake in watching the royal wedding.
The who?
The royal wedding.
Who? The royal what?
The royal wedding. I didn't watch it at all.
Okay,
it was early anyway.
It was early.
The time difference.
It'd be one thing if it was like a wedding that involved two very high-profile Americans for people to care about it.
Yeah, that's one. Because
people like it would be different.
Stuff.
But yo, dog.
Yeah, this is another country.
This is another country. I just don't know why people are so like enthralled by it, man.
I never understood, man.
I understand like in being enthralled by certain elements. Like I know some people who appreciate good music, good classical music, and there was that dude playing the cello. Some people was like, "Oh, that was great," or some people were focused on the inspirational sermon.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe so. But
fashion. Some people like fashion.
Maybe. But I guarantee you that's a very small group of people that are paying attention to elements in the wedding.
Yeah.
For the most part. And that's cool. I don't care. But for the most part, mugs are just like so enamored by a royal wedding.
I saw clips of I did see because it was late on Saturday night. I never even saw this thing before. Maybe they've done this before. Cord and Tish. Have you ever heard of that? It was on. I think it was on HBO. I think it was, but it was actually Molly Shannon and Will Ferrell like doing some other characters, and they were like doing some commentary, but like comedic commentary about the royal wedding. So I saw a little bit of that. It was mildly funny, but anyway, I saw some clips through that where. I mean, there's just a bunch of people outside on either side of like the car or the carriage that they're coming down the street in. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, like once you're here, right, like at a certain position and that carriage passes you, why are you still there? The show's over. you like congregated out of here. Like I don't know, thousands of you are out here trying to see something. It passes you in like 2 seconds. And now what? It makes no sense to me, man. And there was just a gang of people out there. It's ridiculous.
But think about it though, man. It's almost like a real life fairy tale.
Yeah.
And you know how we are about fairy tales, man. I mean, they kind of permeate, the big screen, the smaller screen, and TV shows and cartoons and animated films. It's a fairy tale. And so like a real life fairy tale.
All right.
So
enough of that. What else happened? Okay, everybody's favorite racist, Aaron Schlossberg. Man, the media has been all over him, trying to, just putting cameras in his face.
Hey, Aaron done fucked up. You done fucked up, Aaron.
There was even like a what was it, like a festival they had outside of his home?
Festival with like a mariachi band?
Yeah, man, they was eating out of there, like outside on the street.
Man, they've been trolling
there
this
dude.
Speakers. They've been trolling this dude like like something serious,
See,
man.
You don't do shit like this in the digital age, man. You just don't do it, man, because it's gonna come back at you.
Yeah, because people can retaliate in all kind of ways, like like Barbecue Becky found out.
That's right.
But
Schlossberg apparently he's seen the light. Apparently, so earlier this morning, he posted an apology on Twitter, and it reads, "To the people I insulted, I apologize. Seeing myself online opened my eyes. The manner in which I express myself is unacceptable and is not the person I am. I see my words and actions hurt people, and for that I am deeply sorry. While people should be able to express themselves freely, they should do so calmly and respectfully. What the video did not convey is the real me. I am not racist." One of the reasons I moved to New York is precisely because of the remarkable diversity offered in this wonderful city. I love this country and the city, in part because of immigrants. In part because of immigrants and the diversity of cultures immigrants bring to this country. Again, my sincerest apologies to anyone and everyone I hurt. Thank you. I couldn't even. He talked about immigrants.
So he's apologizing.
And he specifically said, immigrants are the reason why this city is so beautiful. What?
If that's why you came here, then like you would have no notion, like you wouldn't feel the need to go about harassing people like you did. You know what I'm saying? If that's the reason why you came, it just doesn't make sense. How are you going to apologize and then say you're not racist? Then what are you apologizing for? And he's making it sound like the only reason what he did was wrong because he didn't say it calmly.
But I won't even say maybe if it was one event, because I think one event is even, I mean, that's enough evidence to really determine like what a person is, like who they are, like what kind of thoughts are permeating through their brain. But we have several events where he's captured on camera berating people.
That's not who he is, though.
That's not who he is?
It's not who he is, though.
So on several instances where you displayed what your character is really like, you're just saying that, like, I don't know. What, you got caught up in the moment or something?
He's basically disassociating himself from his actions. I mean, it's like he's acting like,
even if he was drunk, you couldn't do that.
Exactly. He's making it like he's a wind-up doll. And somebody just like wound him up and just let him go, and he didn't have any control.
Yeah. Get out of here, man.
Like, man, I'm not accepting that apology.
I am not racist. Oh, okay, man. Yeah, we believe you, man.
That's not an apology, man.
That's not an apology. Yeah, because you're not really acknowledging what you displayed. Whatever, man. Anyway, President Trump. He has recently said that the upcoming summit with North Korea could be delayed, and it may not work for the set date of June 12th. But he did insist that North Korea is committed and is serious about denuclearization. And you know what? That last part, that might very well be true, but it's kind of, well, I guess you got to be specific about those words, because by you saying that North Korea is committed to or serious about denuclearization, that very well may be true, but are they interested or serious about unilateral denuclearization?
Exactly. He's kind of leaving that out.
Yeah.
He's not like, he's acting like that it's going to come like by itself.
Right.
Like that's going to come by itself without Kim Jong-un not wanting anything else, I guess, in the deal, besides himself relinquishing his weapons.
Which never made sense.
No. He's going to want something else from us and from South Korea. So yeah.
So if Trump is coming out and saying that it may not work, it's not going to work.
He's just trying to like, maybe he's trying to like maybe set things up. So if something goes wrong, it won't seem as bad. He's trying to set us up. You know what I'm saying, for a smooth fall. You know,
I'm glad that he wasn't issued the Nobel Peace Prize already, because damn, it would be for nothing. I'm glad he wasn't issued it already. Now we have time to really, I guess, see if he deserves it or not, right?
evaluate.
Yeah, we have an evaluation period now. Yeah. Also, there's a lot of speculation surrounding the current one of the U.S. Supreme Court justices, Anthony Kennedy. A lot of talk about him being likely to retire soon. So Republicans want him gone quick, fast, and in a hurry, and they want him done by. Really, they want him done yesterday. There was one guy, one senator, Chuck Grassley. He said last week, quote, "I hope it's now or within 2 or 3 weeks because we've got to get this done before the election." So they want him gone yesterday so that Trump can go ahead and nominate somebody. The Senate can confirm them because now they only need 50 votes now. They just need a majority now. Well, 50, 51, whatever. But they just need a simple majority now. They don't need the 60 votes anymore. So they want to get that done before the midterm elections because the results might make it more. It might make it harder. Yeah.
So, but if they wait till the midterms or till after the midterms, then who is most likely going to have kind of more leverage in deciding who gets approved for?
Well, it's all about how the midterms go.
But see, this kind of look. I don't know how they're going to go.
No, I don't either.
But it appears as if the Republicans have a fear.
Oh yes, a very clear fear that they may lose control of one or both.
You wouldn't be so anxious to kind of, fill this seat if you weren't scared in some kind of way.
Yep. Grassley also said it was like a specific message to all the justices. He said, quote, "If you're thinking about quitting this year, do it yesterday." So Kennedy hasn't said anything. He hasn't gone on record saying that he's going one way or another. There's speculation going both ways. Kennedy has been on the bench since '88. He was appointed by Ronald Reagan in '88. And he's looked at as the moderate Republican on the bench. In the case of like marriage equality, he sided with the liberals on that. But when you're talking about like limiting, I guess, like he allowed money in politics to reign supreme. He sided with the conservatives on that front. So he goes both ways. He is a Republican.
Yeah, on a Citizens United case.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It would be a bad look if he does step down, because then Trump would be able to nominate somebody, and I have every thought that who he nominates is going to be somebody very conservative, not moderate. So it's a concern.
And it's highly probable that there'll be enough Democrats to cower in a situation like that.
Like nominate Manchin.
I think we've been through this, like, gosh, like how many times already?
Too many, man. Too many. All right. So, so on Friday, there was another school shooting. Just the latest school shooting here in the United States of America. This time it was in Texas, near Houston, Texas, and Santa Fe, Texas. So it happened at Santa Fe High School. It's just south of Houston, like I said. The suspect was a 17-year-old male student at the school. Name is Demetrios Pagorgis. And he was taken into custody after a nearly 30-minute standoff with police officers in which there was an exchange of gunfire. 10 people were killed. There were 8 students and 2 teachers that were killed. The law enforcement, authorities figures said that they don't believe the people that died as a result of any gunfire coming from them.
But they're still
sorting through that.
They're still waiting on
autopsies, right,
and examination of the gun shells.
That's right.
To figure that out.
That's right.
To be honest, it's not that I wouldn't care, but I think it's like whether some bullets from police officers' guns hit kids, I think is inconsequential, because they're not the ones who started the gunfight.
Right.
I mean, I doubt if some sort of bullet hit a student on a ricochet, I just would chalk that up as an accident.
Well, it would matter about the tactic that were employed. Too.
No,
if it was reckless, then yeah, but yeah, just automatically, I wouldn't
just
put
automatically,
any guilt on them.
just automatically putting the blame on law enforcement. No,
Right,
they're going to have to also release the camera footage too. They're not just going to look at the autopsy and the gun shells. Not just gun shells, but the bullets that they took out of the victims, but also the footage. I mean, police officers do idiotic things all the time, but I highly doubt that they would try to
be reckless in that kind of
in that kind of situation.
Right. So the suspect was armed with 2 weapons. One was a sawed-off shotgun, another one was a .38 caliber handgun. The weapons were legally owned by his father. It's being reported that the suspect told investigators that he spared people he liked because he wanted them to tell his story.
And didn't he also target a chick too?
Yes.
Because she kind of denied his advances.
Well, that's the speculation. That student was Shayna Fisher, and it's being her mother was was talking to the media, saying that Pagorgi's was coming on to her frequently, and it was recently that she stood up in class and finally shot him down publicly, and that may have something to do with why he targeted her. So, like I said, that's speculation, but it's it's probably accurate.
Now you mentioned with the sawed-off shotgun and what else? Was a 38 caliber. Now I don't know anything. I didn't read anything about the sawed-off shotgun, but I read that the 38 caliber gun wasn't purchased by anyone in Demetrios' family. It was investigators tracked the original purchasers down, but they're still trying to figure out how that 38 cal ended up in the hands of Demetrios. Like I said, I didn't read anything about the sawed off.
See, I read that these 2 handguns were legally owned by
at some point.
Legally owned by his father. But then I saw that sawed-off shotgun is actually illegal.
So it's not legally owned.
Exactly.
And then the 38 cal.
Yeah, they don't know how they
didn't purchase it. Yeah. Because I think if they were the original purchasers, the articles that I read would have noted that.
Right.
So apparently, obviously for obvious reasons,
there's different reports out there.
Yeah. For obvious reasons, they did not, I guess, disclose the identity of the original purchasers.
Right. No, they didn't. Yeah.
But go ahead, because I want to talk about something else that connects to that before you move on.
Well, no, you can go ahead.
Oh no, I think that to me, when we're talking about gun control of any kind, whether it be background checks or magazine size, what type of gun, I think kind of another glaring issue is, I don't know, people's flippancy and how they I guess view their gun rights. They're very fervently, rhetorically fervent about maintaining their gun rights, but they're not as fervent as, I guess, talking about the responsibilities that come along with those gun rights. And so here in this case, we have someone who came in possession of a gun, but that person did not purchase it, right? So if we're going to talk about gun rights, I think it's important for people who are advocates of gun rights to be realistic about what kind of responsibilities should come along with that, because this is a deadly weapon. Right. This is a deadly weapon. This is not a household gadget or some sort of kitchen trinket.
Well, see, that's why when there have been many times where we have discussed gun control, possible gun regulations, because of instances like this, and we point to different countries that have implemented different programs, like the necessary, the mandated storage of particular type of weapons. You have to prove that you have a safe and secure storage location for these weapons, and they can't be, the weapons, I don't believe, can't be loaded. They can't be stored in the same. I don't think they can be stored in the same place as the bullets, I believe.
So basically, you're saying when it comes to people and I guess them admiring their weapons so much and them being so adamant about gun rights and the Second Amendment, okay, since this item is so special, right? This is a special item. If the object is special, then shouldn't we treat it like it's special?
Yes, we should, and we should mandate that not just storage, but we've talked about training, like ongoing training, dexterity training. Make sure that you are able to handle the gun. Eyesight, eyesight tests, just regular functionality tests that should be commonplace, because like you just said, this is a mobile, well, you didn't say, but this is a mobile weapon of mass destruction, right? It's very dangerous, and if it's so special, well let's treat it like that. Like, let's treat it like the people that actually are able to own these weapons and even carry them.
If your gun rights are so special, and the Second
it should be a badge of honor.
So special, it's a badge of honor. Like, I don't understand why people can't treat the ownership of it in the same way, like the responsibility that comes with it. And I think that's a problem too. Like, so, because we can talk about the gun show loophole, right? But I think the private ownership loophole is probably just as dangerous, and maybe more dangerous, and to me doesn't hold any liability when it should. Because if I'm a parent and I give my 8-year-old a gun, right? And if I give my 8-year-old a gun, then that 8-year-old goes out and does something with that object, that gun, guess who they're going to hold liable? They may not charge me with murder, but they're going to charge me with some sort of like some neglect in some way, like criminal neglect.
That's why I think it's very important to understand how this 17-year-old kid got his hands on these guns. Were they not locked up? Were they just in a location that he could just get them? Did he break in something to get them? Like, the details are important, because if this father was very negligent, then he should be held accountable. That's what I think.
I think that would solve some of the issues. There's no way we can prevent like all events, all situations, all massacres, all shooting. There's no way you can do that. But if you don't put any responsibility on, I guess, people, then I think there are going to be too many instances that lead to somebody dangerous getting their hands on guns. Because like I said, we can talk about background checks all the time. We can talk about the type of guns that are available and the magazines and what else. Bump stocks, we talk about that all the time. That's fine. But then, like, we have people who are transferring guns to people. We have people who are handing guns over to people that may or may not be mentally stable or have the capacity to own a gun.
That's why universal background checks is so important. Like you said, you always hear about the gun show loophole. But no, like you said, it's possible that the private sales is more important. No, it's definite, and that is more important.
And actually, not just private sales, just people just treating guns like they're just like any other object.
Yes.
So again, like, if you're going to be like kind of a fervent supporter of the Second Amendment and gun rights, I'm cool with that. But you also have to be just as fervent and kind of just as responsible.
Yeah, that's what the word I was going to use. You got to be responsible, man. That's it.
Well, you gotta have, if you're just gotta have common sense. It doesn't come with, like, the right itself doesn't come with no responsibility. And so it's like people kind of walk around here thinking that like the Second Amendment and their gun rights just affords them this like unfettered, regulated, just everything.
But see, that's the problem, because for a lot of people, that is common sense. It's there in the Constitution, so I have a right to own it and do whatever I want
with no boundaries at all.
No boundaries,
not
no regulations,
no boundaries,
no nothing.
Like, even beyond regulation,
no responsibility
on my part. And I just don't like the flippancy at which people advocate for their gun rights without dealing with what a gun actually is. If a gun is supposed to protect you and it's like this object that has so much value in your life, then to me, you would think that these people would treat it as such.
So the shooter, under Texas law, if he's convicted, he won't face the death penalty because he's under 18. And for those offenders who are under 18 and charged with a capital offense, the maximum punishment of life in prison, or the maximum punishment is life in prison, and he could possibly be paroled after 40 years. So, he's not going to get the death penalty, which, I mean, I'm not a proponent of the death penalty anyway, but, because of this. It's not a loop. I wouldn't say it's a loophole.
It's a liability hole.
Yeah, it's like I think for most people, 17 years old, you would think like, okay, like you know what's going on. Like you're pretty much an adult. You have a good understanding of what it is to be an adult and to have some responsibility and just treat yourself as like a decent human being. So he's, if he is convicted, he's not going to face like the ultimate punishment. So, for some people that's not going to be sufficient. Now, there have been teenagers that have survived the event, saying that he was very quiet. He wasn't very social. He oftentimes wore a trench coat to school, even when it was hot. Most days he just wore a trench coat, and that's how he did get the sawed-off shotgun in the school, because he had that trench coat on and it was just hidden. There have been some people suggesting some things. So Sean Hannity, on his radio show, he said, quote, "Every school district needs to have some person that monitors every kid's social media postings. Maybe they need 2 people. This is a reality now that they're telegraphing what they're going to do. Terrorists do it. These school shooters do it too."
So, Mr. Defend Trump at all costs, specifically on the subject of surveillance. Specifically on that subject, wants to increase surveillance of teenagers.
Yes.
But where does it start? Because obviously whatever the shooter's mental state was didn't begin when he was in high school. It happened at a high school. Where do you draw the line?
Like, where do you start monitoring?
Where do you start monitoring them? In elementary school, middle school, and high school? Also, like, whose job is it going to be? Is it going to be the teacher's job? Definitely not. They already have a heavy workload. So you're going to have to actually hire people to do this. Some kids have Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. Some have one or more, or one or all of those things. So, like, you have a lot of bases to cover. Like, it's just unrealistic.
It sounds like big government to me. It sounds like, because you would think about all the kids all across the country that go to high schools and middle schools, elementary schools. You would have to probably create a whole new agency, a whole new governmental agency that is responsible for this task.
How many students did Marjorie Stoneman Douglas have?
It's like 3,400, I believe.
3,400 students. And obviously, I think once, if you look at the idea, you would then have to kind of expand at least to middle school.
You have to, because a lot of those kids have social media
profiles.
It's a ridiculous idea.
So now you're talking about millions and millions upon millions of kids.
Right. Let's just surveil them.
Everything
they do online. The Texas Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, he said that there were most likely too many entrances and exits at the schools all across Texas and probably across America as well. But just talking about Texas, he kind of suggested that he thought like either 1 or 2 entrances and exits was probably best.
What do you mean, like actual doors?
Yeah, actual. Yeah.
That would seem more dangerous, because that means like I guess that would create a situation where students are bottlenecked trying to get out. Yeah. So it actually makes them more vulnerable.
See, like if he's talking about entrances only, then it's possible that because that works at a lot of elementary schools where you have to go through this one entrance, like all the other doors are locked. Side doors are locked. But if you're talking about exits, now that's just a harebrained idea.
But entrances are exits. That's the thing.
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna actually, if they're actually going to like reformat these schools, like restructure these schools to where there's actually no doors, like you can't get in or out, but like just a couple ways. That's absolutely not the way to go. But if you're saying that you can't get in, but you can get out, okay, yeah, we can talk about that. So he needs to do a little clarifying.
I don't think there's clarification necessary. You can't say something that stupid and clarify that. You can't iron that out. You cannot iron that out. There's nothing to iron out there. But you know what is an entrance? And the biggest entrance is lack of gun control. That's those are
true.
You know what I'm saying? That's the most significant entrance.
That's true. Also, of course, as soon as this happened, the conspiracy theorists were out, in full force. There were some claims, of course. We'll just deal with one of them. There was one kid named Rome Schubert who was a survivor. He got shot in the head. He's a 16-year-old student, and he got shot in the back of the head. It went through and through. So he was in the hospital, but only there for like a few hours, maybe 1 to 3 hours, something like that, right? He wasn't there very long. He wasn't admitted, I guess. He was out the same day. So he did an interview with the media. I can't remember what news outlet it was. Maybe it was ABC News. I can't remember. But you could see gauze on his head, tape on his head or whatever like that. And that got people to thinking like, hey, are you serious? This must be fake. He's got to be a crisis actor because, one, he was in and out of the hospital. Two, why wasn't his head shaved? Because he got shot in the head. They would have shaved his head before they did anything to him. It's like you don't even know his situation. Like, first of all, there were some people talking about he got shot in his head, as in he got shot in his skull, which that doesn't seem to be the case because it went through and through. So I don't believe he got shot in the skull.
Yeah, and of course people were like, well, I wouldn't say just people, but a particular person,
there was some people,
that said something about basically because there wasn't pieces of skull, his brain wasn't blown out, then there's no way he could have got shot in the head. I'm like, yo, again, this is not Hollywood, yo.
Exactly. You're like envisioning some bloody massacre. It's just not going to be the case. And then the thing about shaving the head, is anybody pointing to that he had surgery? Nobody is saying that he has surgery. I didn't read anything about this guy actually having surgery. So why would there be a need to shave his head? I mean, am I just not in the know? Because I thought that would be the case if you had surgery, but it doesn't seem like he had surgery. He probably had some stitches. Maybe they cleaned the area. Maybe I don't know what was done. But this conspiracy theory crap is, man, there's Mike always says too, there are some conspiracy theories that are based on actual things. But this is based on nothing. It's just sad that you're using people's tragedy to just hypothesize over nothing, man. It's disgusting. All right. You know what? Yeah, let's go. Let's
go exclusively to YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna get rid of Facebook at this time, so we're gonna do the rest of the show on YouTube. I didn't realize it was 7:45. But anyway, we thank you for joining us for these 45 minutes. And if you would click the link in the description, and you'll be taken to the rest of the program. We have lots more to discuss. So thank you, and we'll see you in just a minute. All right. I be forgetting what we have to discuss. The list is so extensive, man. All right. Let's see. Where you want to go? You want to go to the? Let's go to the Tuesday primaries real quick.
Yeah,
okay?
Tuesday primaries. All
right. So there's primaries tonight. Some polls are probably already closed in some places. In Kentucky, okay, Kentucky is one of the places. Kim Davis is up for re-election in Kentucky. Kim Davis. Kim Davis. You remember the county clerk that was refusing to give marriage licenses
to same-sex couples.
Yeah, same-sex. That Kim Davis, she is up for re-election in Kentucky now. And she has some opponents. One of them is named David Armold. And he's actually one of the men that was denied a marriage license. So he's running in the Democratic primary. And he said he wishes to, quote, restore professional leadership, fairness, and responsibility to the clerk's office. And Amy Schumer, the comedian and actress, and Susan Sarandon, they've donated to his campaign. So Kim Davis was actually a Democrat at the time, back in 2015, throughout this controversy. But after she got out of jail,
she got a lot of support from guess who?
Republican.
And that's another instance.
She switched to the Republican
and that's
Party.
another example of how party doesn't mean shit. It's more about ideology.
Yeah.
Because did she receive any support from any Democrats after that instance? Or she didn't receive? Did she receive any?
Maybe Joe Manchin.
Yeah. Damn, dog.
maybe
you love throwing shit at Joe. Joe, you love throwing shit at him.
Possibly. I have to go back and research.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any what you would call liberal networks.
Yeah, right.
Kind of have her on and showing some support of her. That's an example of why party doesn't matter.
You had Cruz, you had Huckabee, and you remember Cruz got mad because he couldn't get on the stage.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Huckabee wanted all the shine. He wanted all that shine, and they wouldn't let Cruz get up on the stage. He got all bent out of shape. But anyway, I hope she loses. It's about damn time that she shouldn't even be in office. I mean, because she failed to do her job responsibility. She failed to execute.
She should have been removed.
She should have been. So I hope the voters see that, and I hope they remove her from consideration for re-election. All right. So in Georgia, Democratic primary for the governorship, and it's the battle between two Stacys. There's Stacey Abrams and there's Stacey Evans, right? And they both claim that they are both progressive. Both of them claim that about themselves. Mm-hmm. So Stacey Abrams is a black woman, and of course she would be the first black woman governor, not just in Georgia, but in the whole United States of America. It hasn't happened before. So Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, they both endorsed Stacey Abrams.
Then Cory Booker, and Kamala
Harris as well endorsed her. Such organizations such as Emily's List and Planned Parenthood endorsed her.
I mean, she's running a pretty inclusive campaign, and she's received endorsement from them.
Yes.
Labor unions,
yes.
Teachers groups.
That's right.
LGBTQ organizations. So
she's looked at
on the
as
surface,
the front runner.
She's looked at it, as a progressive.
Right.
Supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah.
Not to us, but to a lot of naysayers.
Yeah. So, and we're not saying that she isn't. It's just that's the word that's out there. So Clinton, she said about her, she said, quote, "A Yale-educated attorney, Abrams is the only candidate with bold new plans to ensure Georgians have access to good jobs, quality public schools, affordable child care, and higher educations." So between the two, between Evans and Abrams, there's not a lot of difference. If you actually look at their policy positions, and if they just recently had a debate as well, and I saw the whole thing, and even during the debate, there's, like I said, there's not a lot of room between them. There's not a lot of distance between their ideology. It really boils down to like a few different things. Okay, so for Evans, she has criticized Abrams on the Hope Scholarship. All right, so the Hope Scholarship allows, for the most part, it's low income individuals or people that just don't have means to pay for high tuition prices, stuff like that. Allows them to go to school. I remember when we were in school, I think it was $1,000. I'm not sure if it's the same amount now, but it allows them to go to probably like a technical school free of charge. Okay, if they get that scholarship, I think you have to have a B average and maybe some other things to be at a high school that I guess is qualified as well. But anyway, so Evans' contention is that Abrams gutted the Hope Scholarship while she was the minority leader of the House of Representatives in Georgia. So that's actually true. Abrams, her defense is that she did so because in Georgia there's a supermajority. It's the Republicans that control the House and the Senate. So she says that she did so because, well, she did so to avoid something worse. She did so to avoid like even more devastating cuts.
Well, so
to
she's
the
saying,
Hope Scholarship.
So she's saying that was a compromise?
Pretty much. Yeah, she worked with the Republicans and she worked with the Governor Nathan Deal, and they came to this compromise. Now,
so it wasn't like she championed the Hope Scholarship being gutted. It was that she felt that the only way to save it was to compromise with Republicans.
Right. So when she explains it, and she has explained it to different voters, voters that ask her questions about this, because Stacey Evans has ran ads about this. So there have been different voters that have actually, she's fielded questions about this. And there have been some voters that she's explained it to, and they feel satisfied with the answer. I don't know. I mean, like you said, with the way you put it, I mean, I'm not going to blast her for it, but then it does sound like an establishment type of move or mindset, because it's like we always say that Republicans, they always go to the extreme. They will go all out, all for the gusto. You can't stop them, right? Their ideology is what it is, and they will go hard as hell for it. Democrats, for some reason, they're like, well, we got to kind of capitulate, and we got to move to the center. They're asking for so much, we got to give. So it's like, I hate to see that, because they never stick to the guns.
So was she was the minority leader?
She was the minority leader in the House.
So she was like the Chuck
the Nancy Pelosi
of Georgia.
Yeah, exactly.
In position,
not
necessarily political platform, but in her position, in government,
So I don't know. I don't know. You can see it, different ways. It's not like a oh, she did that, I'm gonna totally write her off. Because of her other standpoints. Right, exactly. So for Stacey Evans, Stacey Abrams' main, I guess, assault on her or criticism of her is about education. Well, I guess, they're all about education. Mm-hmm. But this is about voucher programs. So Abrams says that Evans supports voucher programs that takes millions of dollars away from public education. So Evans, I guess, defense of that is that no, voucher programs aren't even allowable. Then they're illegal in Georgia. So I mean, I'm categorically denying that. But what Abrams said is that I guess it's not actually voucher programs. It's like behind the cover voucher programs. Essentially, it's something. I guess it's not officially voucher programs, but it is taking money away from public education.
So basically, Abrams is accusing her of trying to implement a system that is like voucher programs, but it's not called voucher program. It doesn't have the word voucher in it, but it behaves in the same way. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, I'm not. And again, I don't. That contention, I'm not sure how accurate that is. I'm just not in know about that particular criticism of her. So, but again, it seems as though those two things are the main differences between them. If you're talking about campaign strategies, they do approach it different ways. Abrams seems to be, I guess, she's more concerned with the minority vote. She's concerned with people that are disillusioned with politics and welcoming new voters into the system to vote for her. While Evans, she's trying to, I guess, appeal to moderate Republicans, independents, and like I said, those are different strategies.
See, I mean, I think the strategy should be contingent on who the base is, and a lot of black people make up that Democratic base.
Yeah, that is a point, but once you get to the general, this is Georgia.
Yeah, I know. We were right next to Georgia,
exactly,
in a burgundy state,
exactly.
And so they are just as burgundy as we are.
So I'm not gonna fault Evans for trying to appeal to those independents and even moderate Republicans. I'm not gonna fault her for it, because she does say that she goes for the Democratic base and progressives also too. People of color. It's just that there is the difference between their campaign strategies.
And speaking of campaign strategies, in appealing to minority voters, we had a issue with.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And I forgot about this. You had to remind me about it because we actually talked about this.
Right. Yeah. Months ago.
Where kind of Stacey Evans used Martin Luther King's image, and she kind of almost juxtaposed it over her own.
Yeah, it was kind of like a blend or something. Yeah,
and it kind of, to me, sent the wrong message.
Oh yeah. It was a bad look.
The thing, if she was going to use Martin Luther King's image, I guess to promote herself as someone who champions some of the same issues,
embodies the spirit,
champions some of the same like causes as he did. That's one thing, but once you get into the imagery that she did, it made her
bad look, man.
You know what I'm saying? It was like
look.
It was almost like, you know, like the spirit of MLK is in me. We are the same. We are one and the same.
There were some critics. Well, some people were saying like it was essentially like Evans putting on blackface. I'm not gonna go that far.
Digital blackface.
I'm not gonna go that far. And again, like we said, we had criticisms about this because, and there was another point because, well, it was at MLK Jr.'s Ebenezer Baptist Church, and she didn't. I don't believe she got permission from the parishioners to even like record video in there, so they were surprised about it, and they didn't know anything about it. She ended up taking the video down and not using that ad anymore. It was just a bad look. You know, she deserves criticism for that. I'm not gonna throw away because of that. It was a bad move, but like I said, I'll just leave it to, hey, that's a criticism. You know, like people can be criticized for all types of things. That was a bad move. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But anyway, they're similar in guns. Their stance on guns. They're similar on insurance, Medicaid expansion. They're similar on women's health and, you know, access to abortion, opposing religious liberty bills, because that's big in Georgia. The Republicans are talking about that very strongly.
So how does somebody sift through all this? How somebody just kind of filter these two candidates and like confidently go forth with a vote, knowing that they made the right choice with candidates that are so kind of closely, like, you know, linked, I guess, in their platforms?
Neither one of them talks about Medicare for all. Neither one of them talks about legalization of marijuana. Now, I believe it's Evans that has talked about decriminalization of marijuana, but doesn't go as far as saying legalization. And Abrams, I don't believe I've heard her say anything about marijuana. They both talk about criminal justice reform, but
I'm sorry, if you're
not talking
about legalization of marijuana,
then you're not talking about real measures. Yeah, exactly, because you have to include that. Because it has devastated communities, because, you know, those kind of policies, jail time, it's a mess. But anyway, so that's tonight. Polls probably already closed 7:00, so we'll see, you know, what happens. Like I said, Abrams is looked at as the leader in the race. I believe there were some polls taken recently where she had at least a double-digit lead, but there were a lot of people that were undecided. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake out.
You sent me that Vox article, and the Vox article, I think, linked to some other reporting done from The Intercept. I forgot the name of the writer.
Yeah,
do you remember the name of the writer?
Zay Julani. I can't remember his name.
Like just something Jelani or
something like that.
something Lonnie.
I can see it, but I can't piece it all together.
Yeah, he's the one, because at the beginning we kind of said that there were some people that see her as a fake progressive. He was one.
Yeah, he's one of them. Writer for The Intercept.
He said he basically used the term fake progressive, and one of the kind of the main points that he, I guess, highlighted as to supporting that claim was that she took money from the Koch brothers. Right. Abrams took money from the Koch brothers, but she did. It was $2,000. $2,000. I mean, okay, you can highlight that. You could say that she could have refused it. She could have. But the way he framed it was like she was bought by the Koch brothers. She was run by the Koch brothers. I was like, $2,000. $2,000. $2,000 would. Oh yeah, for us, it would run us. Yeah, it would buy us. Yeah. because that's $2,000 on top of zero. That's on top of exactly. Like if we took $2,000, then you can consider that to be bought. Exactly, us being bought because of what we're worth. Right. now.
Because nothing's coming in. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, $2,000 again. I don't think it's a good look for her, but still, you know, it's probably pretty inconsequential. Again, it's still a bad look, but yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying that she's bought. I don't know. This race is, I don't know. Yeah, that was it. Say Jelani. Yeah. This race, like I said, man, I don't know. They both have supporters. You know, a lot of people think it's going to come down to race. You know, I mean, yeah, it's a black woman against a white woman. They both are seemingly progressive. And if you're talking about the black vote, both have black surrogates and supporters. So, I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. On the GOP side in Georgia, there's Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle. He's the dude that you remember he threatened Delta Airlines over
the NRA taking the taking the discount away,
from NRA. Yeah, he's the one that threatened them, and they actually did take away their tax benefit.
He's the typical conservative.
Yes, so that's him. He's looked at as the leader in the pack. I believe there's like 5 different candidates. There's Secretary of State Brian Kemp, and then there's Michael Williams, deportation bus guy. That guy, yeah, he's running too.
But he is seen as a long shot.
Yeah,
that's why he had to kind of go forth with those deportation bus.
He had to generate some buzz.
He was recently in South Carolina. I don't know when because I saw like a little a picture or a thumbnail.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't even pay attention until I saw like Greenville, 85 and 85. I was like, oh dang, he done been here.
I seen some videos where I don't know if he was here at the time, but he's trying to meet at Cracker Barrels. I believe he's trying to meet at like I think it was like 10 different Cracker Barrels.
Yeah, dog.
And like there was one, I guess the bus was parked in the parking lot, and they were like, "Nah, you gotta get out of here because you're blocking, you know, people from parking. Get the hell out of here, man. No, you gotta get out of here." So they were forced to move the bus and get out of there. And Cracker Barrel is saying like, "No, we don't want nothing to do with this Michael Williams or this deportation bus. You know, we're inclusive, blah blah blah."
Not only is the bus a bad look, the fact that he went to a restaurant called Cracker Barrel.
They're like, what are you doing, man? Don't bring us into this.
Oh, you're like, we all like, you know how Cracker Barrel's already been.
They already got
a lot of scrutiny.
Exactly, man. They don't want more of that.
They don't want more of that.
But anyway, so that's you know, that's what we have for I guess, you know, like what's to come tonight. You know, I believe there's one more state. I think it's Arkansas as well that has a primary tonight too. So, you know, we'll see how it shakes out, and maybe at the end of the night we'll have some results. Maybe if not, you know, maybe we can talk about that on Thursday. But yeah, so since we did speak about Hillary Clinton, you know, we can go further with in
regard to her supporting Abrams. That's what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes. So that's not all she is, you know, sticking her neck out for and saying that, hey, you know, I'm publicly giving my support to Abrams. She's also giving her support to Andrew Cuomo, the current governor of New York. So this is not a surprise. I don't believe it's a surprise to me. I don't believe it's a surprise to Mike over here, because if anybody remembers 2016, it was Cuomo that came out in support for Hillary Clinton, right? They've been longtime friends, right? So this is not a surprise whatsoever.
It's not a surprise.
No.
But, you know, as far as I know, didn't Cynthia Nixon give money to Clinton's campaign?
She did. 2016, right?
2016.
She did.
You would think that your girl, HRC, would at least return the favor.
Like girl power.
Not just girl power.
And like progressive, like let's crack that glass ceiling.
Well, I mean, not just that, but remember one of Hillary Clinton's, one of her surrogates, Madeleine Albright, what did she say? There's a special place in hell.
You went there.
For women that don't help each other. You remember that?
You went there?
Remember that? And see, it doesn't count that she's supporting Abrams. Why is that? Because Abrams is going, she's up against in the primaries another woman. So that doesn't count.
That's true.
That's why I don't count that.
That's true.
So in this case, she's like she's kind of backing, well, not backing down from supporting. She just outright not supporting Cynthia Nixon.
Yeah. And Nixon is the
actually
notable progressive in the race.
That's to the left of Cuomo.
Yes, she talks about Medicare for all. She talks about the legalization of marijuana. She talks about getting the people that have been affected by like the terrible war on drugs, like actually into the business of like cannabis. They should have first crack at it, which I haven't heard that before.
She's definitely playing a nice little chess game with Cuomo, because she comes out to the left of Cuomo, then she forces Cuomo to try to do some coincidental last minute legislation.
Yep.
And you know what she does? She's like, I see you, and then goes further to the left.
Yeah.
No, because she didn't talk about reparations in the form of giving money to those that have been incarcerated. She didn't say that first.
No, she didn't.
She did not say that first.
Yes.
She did not come out with that first. She didn't come out with that until after Cuomo tried his little...
Yep. Let me piggyback, just like Hillary Clinton did Bernie. So this is all gonna this is gonna happen tomorrow at the Democratic, the New York State Democratic convention. Hillary's planning on endorsing Cuomo. So Cynthia Nixon is planning on attending, and she said, I believe in a statement, she said, quote, "I am attending the convention because New York Democrats deserve to have at least one actual Democratic candidate for governor at their state convention." Damn. Wow. That's not even shade. That's like a direct hit, man. That's not shade.
So again, this is not a surprise to either of us.
No.
But it does point to an hypocrisy on behalf of Hillary Clinton.
Boy, you went there. We went to Madeleine Albright, man.
She said it, man. She was trying to kind of shame people.
And you remember how hard Hillary Clinton laughed, right?
No, that was a laugh that indicated that she co-signed that statement.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
But it was also like almost like a sinister laugh too.
Oh, it was.
It was like a
damn right, damn right.
That'll get him.
So, if you haven't had enough of Hillary Clinton, there's one more little thing. There was a video, or that we have a video. Some of you probably seen it.
Yeah, I was about to say they are probably seen.
So this was at a commencement speech, I believe, at Yale University, and Hillary Clinton decided to tell a jokey joke.
Now I see, looking out at you, that you are following the tradition of over-the-top hats. So I brought a hat too. A Russian hat. Right? Look, I mean, if you can't beat them, join them.
Woo! Why you ain't laughing? Wait, that wasn't funny? She pulled off the joke of the century. She pulled off the joke of the century.
It was so unfunny. It was uncomfortable.
Maybe was it because of the joke or the person it came from, the joke, or just the delivery?
It was definitely both, but it was definitely both. But who it came from, like, Russian. Oh, stop it! See, this is just Hillary continue her worldwide tour, saying that it's not my fault. It ain't my fault. She won't go away, man. She She still has influence.
She pulled like, because she said can't beat him, join him.
Yeah.
She pulled a Kevin Durant.
She said that she's not going to be a politician anymore, but through her actions, she's definitely going to be heavily involved.
But she did not say anything about not doing stand-up.
All right, that's enough Hillary Clinton for the show, man. that's enough, man.
Russia hat. Get out of here, dumbass. Look at my Russia hat. Oh, so corny.
Oh my gosh. All right. Anyway, all right. So let's move on. Let's see where we gonna go to. Let's go to the bill. Let's go to that bill.
The bill.
The bill.
The bill.
The bill. All right. So where I got it at, man? Okay. Yeah, we go. Let's see if I got any. Yeah, I got this right here. Okay. So on Wednesday, a Blue Lives Matter bill was passed in the House of Representatives by a vote of 382 to 35. The official bill is called the Protect and Serve Act of 2018, and it would make it a federal crime to assault a police officer. There's also a Senate version of the bill that defines an attack on an officer as a federal hate crime. So this is from The Intercept. The Protect and Serve Act would allow anyone who knowingly causes serious bodily injury to a law enforcement officer to be imprisoned up to 10 years. And it creates even harsher penalties for other criminal acts against police. If a police officer were kidnapped, killed, or faced a threat on their life, then the perpetrator could get a much longer sentence, including potentially life in prison.
A hate crime, Will? Hate crime.
A hate crime? So
go ahead. No, go ahead.
So effectively and essentially,
Go ahead.
what this legislation has done, it has set up law enforcement officers to be a protected class. They are a protected class of individuals that it means that if one of them is hurt on the job, if one of them, well, I hope it's on the job. We don't know. But if one of them is actually assaulted, then that means it's because an individual hates them and hates them because they are a police officer.
Uniform, yes. So again, a hate crime kind of puts this in the category of, let's say, like police officers and law enforcement, that where the uniform is like now a race, like an ethnic group. But last time I checked, these people weren't born police officers, were they?
Well, they're blue.
They're not.
They're blue.
Are they Navi in disguise?
They must.
Are these Navi in disguise?
They must.
They shouldn't tell me.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, they weren't born as police officers. So how could they be a protected
but
class?
Again, exactly. Again, if they're a class or some sort of ethnicity or race, then that would make sense. You know what I'm saying? It would make sense then, but they're not. But
no.
It just seems as if. But see, my thing is, why did need to co-opt a phrase from a movement that was kind of specifically focused on, I guess, marginalized people, an actual marginalized group?
Yes.
Like, why co-opt the term? You know what I'm saying? Because we all know what this is a play on.
All right,
the Blue Lives Matter is a play on something else.
So back when it started, it was definitely in response to Black Lives Matter. Yes. And Black Lives Matter was and is a campaign to say, we want criminal justice reform. We want the disproportional treatment that we are affected with by law enforcement, but just by law enforcement in general. We want you to stop killing us, unjustly killing us, and if you do kill us, we want justice. That's what Black Lives Matter is about. Yeah. It's about some other things as well, but that's the heart of it. We want justice. Stop killing us. And then Blue Lives Matter comes out, and they're like, what? Their lives matter too? Like, you already are protected. Like, do we really need a Blue Lives Matter bill when they already are protected by not just regular people, but by other law enforcement individuals, politicians, DAs, juries?
Oh, so you're saying that, like, in this society, policemen's lives are heavily valued already?
Yes.
Like for instance, like
they're already put up there,
like
above regular citizens.
It's like when they die, they're automatically a hero. They get a parade that serenades their dead body. They're automatically a hero because they're a police officer. What about their testimony in court? Isn't that held to a higher regard than the testimony of all of us or most civilians in general?
Upstanding police officers, right? Decorated.
They're decorated. There's already, I guess, stiffer penalties for assaulting or killing an officer versus civilians.
Yes, already. So why the reach?
And the police uniform comes with exclusive authorities and power, something that marginalized groups or a vulnerable group would not have. Right?
So I got a question, right? So, because this is about an assault on a police officer, right? So what happens when a police officer is assaulting an individual and an individual may be fighting back?
Resisting arrest.
But is that now a hate crime then?
Probably. No. That's been put forth by a lot of people I've been talking to about this. They said, yeah, that's a possibility.
That's
And you mentioned the purpose of Black Lives Matter,
yes,
right? And that was to bring attention to the justice system,
yes,
the criminal justice system, and reform, and deal with how Black lives are less valued than others. But also Black Lives Matter wasn't just about that. They put forth different suggestions as far as outlining different law enforcement reforms as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just about Black lives. I think that was kind of just the punchline.
Yes, that
was kind of like that was the backdrop to all of this.
It was meant to be provocative, right?
Yeah.
So
it's almost like putting blue lives. The phrase "blue lives" in this legislation, it's like a repudiation of Black social activism.
Yes, it's hijacking it. It's setting it up to where it's like Black Lives Matter don't matter.
Our lives matter more.
Yeah. This is the disgusting. This is a disgusting result here. Disgusting action by the House of Representatives, and if it does pass in the Senate as well, it'll be a disgusting action there. But if you recall, when I set this story up, the vote was 382 to 35. Now, we understand that the Republicans do have control of the House and the Senate, but they don't have that much control. Mm-hmm. So by that vote, it would have to be the case that Democrats were actually on the side of this bill and actually voted for it. Mm-hmm. And they did to an overwhelming degree. We have progressives such as Keith Ellison, Representative Keith Ellison. We have Representative Raul Grijalva. We have Representative Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke. You remember the dude that's he's challenging Senator Ted Cruz in Texas. He's a progressive, right? Also Representative Ro Khanna. They all voted for it. Why the hell would they vote for it? Why does it seem as though politicians from either party have to make leaps and bounds, go overboard to protect a certain sect of individuals that are already protected in our society? Why the need for it? Why the overreach?
Same thing I said about I think the same thing could be said about the Congressional Black Caucus 4 years ago when they voted in support of military-grade equipment being transferred to local law enforcement. It's the same thing. I would say about them too. Like, how can you, as a Congressional Black Caucus member, actually, I guess, increase the likelihood that people like you are going to be abused? I don't know what it is. The only thing I could think of is a lot of these people are older. Now, if we're just talking about specifically Black people, a lot of these people are older. A lot of these people are 50 and 60. So think about how they're perceived. And sometimes they tend to, I guess, approach a certain issue based on how they know they're perceived, even if they don't recognize they're doing this. Because think about how a police officer perceives them when they come up on a situation where there's a traffic stop or any kind of situation where something is going on. They're going to perceive a 50 or 60 or 70-year-old Black man differently than they will a black man who's between the ages of 18 and 35. So essentially, their fight is over.
Right.
Their fight is over. They're not feared in the same way. So their perception is much different. They understand that they're not feared anymore. And I'm not just talking about politically, because I don't think they're feared politically either, but even physically.
I don't know. You can tell that to Walter Scott, right?
Again, he was seen as a threat because he was big and black.
Exactly. He was old.
Yeah, he wasn't that old.
I mean, he was what? He was in his 50s, I believe.
Well, I'm just talking about like overall.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about.
I know
overall.
what you mean.
Yeah.
It just seems like this is it's a stamp of approval to the actions of officers around the country. Now, we don't have any problem with people being supportive of law enforcement in general. We have no problem with that. But when the nickname of this bill is a Blue Lives Matter bill, and you know what that originates from. You know it's a slap in the face to the Black Lives Matter movement. How the hell we understand Republicans are all for this. We understand that. Let them be. But as Democrats, who are supposedly on the side of people, represent the people, on the side of justice, right? Side of
making sure people got a fair shake.
Yeah. Anti-discrimination. True representation, justice. How the hell could you actually sign on to a bill like this? Like, just the nickname alone should make you scream and run away from it.
Yeah, because it's essentially antagonizing activist groups that are just seeking to reform a criminal justice system that abuses them. And so someone needs to tell these blue people that criticism of poorly performing civil servants does not equal discrimination. But it's like, I don't know, bills like this are a sign that our totally politically corrupt classes are desperately afraid of justice. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Because they'll do anything to run away from it. Let's talk about some more anti-justice with the U.S. Supreme Court. Excuse me. All right. So in a 5-4 ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to continue to disallow employees from joining together in class action lawsuits against employers in labor disputes. So the justices said arbitration agreements that bar employees from joining together in arbitration or a class action lawsuit to settle labor disputes are enforceable under the Federal Arbitration Act, and that's from The Hill. Justice Neil Gorsuch, who wrote the majority opinion, said, quote, "The policy may be debatable, but the law is clear. Congress has instructed that arbitration agreements like those before us must be enforced as written." So it was already the case. That employers were disallowing employees from actually banding together and sue them in class action lawsuits.
Did we talk about this in regards to banks and financial institutions?
Yes, we did.
And Republicans struck that down.
Yes, they did.
So we kind of knew this was coming down the pipeline now be applied to all jobs, all types of jobs.
Yep. Exactly. So, I mean, okay, so there are many problems with arbitration, okay? First of all, when an individual has a grievance with an employer and they have to go to arbitration, they're going to have to foot the bill for the legal cost. Now, there may be some employees that are able to have that kind of dispensable, capital that they were able to be, dish out to a lawyer, a good lawyer too. But most people aren't like that. Most people don't have that kind of income. They don't have that kind of wealth. So that means that, one, if they do enter into arbitration, they're probably going to be alone.
I'm glad you brought up the cost to the employee. I'm glad you brought that up because Andrew Pincus, a partner at law firm Mayer and Brown, he defends arbitration, and he says the arbitration process is less expensive, and it's a less expensive way to resolve these disputes out of court. But like you said, who does it cost? So I was like, less expensive for who?
Exactly.
Less expensive for who?
Exactly. You know what? He also said something else, man. He said that class action lawsuits do not typically result in big payouts for the claimants, for the people that are going after the employers.
That's actually a contradiction.
It is.
Because when he was talking about it doesn't cost as much to go through these arbitration through these corporations, he's talking about it lowers the cost for the company.
Yes.
So it can't be both. If people are getting less through trying to sell it outside of arbitration, then wouldn't that mean the company is saving money? If the people aren't getting that much of a payout?
If Andrew Pincus was actually describing the events as they accurately happen, and the best way for the plaintiff, the people, the employee that's going after an employer that has a grievance, if the best way for them to come up with some money is through arbitration, not class action lawsuits, then wouldn't he be for the class action lawsuits? Wouldn't there be no resistance to the class action lawsuits because you would be noting that they would be getting nowhere with the class action lawsuits?
Exactly.
You're full of shit, man.
Oh, he's full of shit. He's full of shit because essentially, in most cases involving the arbitration process, who is coming out on top? And
oh, please.
Who is coming out on top?
It's most of the time it's the employer. Oh, surprise, 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 surprise.
But like Gorsuch, his entire opinion is bunk because he's treating corporations like there's some sort of automated computer system that deals out like fairness when it makes calculations. It's like these corporations are run by sentient creatures, human beings that make decisions in the best interest of the corporations, usually resulting in employees getting shitted on.
Yes.
So it's not like he's treating it like there's not people making decisions. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like these people are shielded from screwing people over because they're doing it within a corporation. You know what I'm saying? So you can get away with things as long as you're doing it under the umbrella of a corporation. So your actions cannot be, I guess, questioned by the United States government, because that was kind of what Gorsuch was saying. Like, yes, he agrees that people should be able to fight for wages and all that. He agrees that people should be able to petition their employers for fair wages and all that. But he says that any disagreement shouldn't go outside of that business. We shouldn't have to deal with anything about contract disputes outside of that business, outside of the confines of that business. Why should we have to deal with it, what I'm saying, as a court, as a third party? And I'm thinking, I was like, don't they deal with third party cases all the time though? Like with discrimination cases, or like sexual harassment cases, or like wrongful termination cases. They do deal with cases like that outside of arbitration. He made it sound like that's not his job. That's not the court's job.
Well, okay, so in delivering the court's opinion, Gorsuch rejected the argument that the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, passed in 1935, makes the arbitration agreements unenforceable. Specifically, the challengers pointed to a provision in the law giving workers the right to organize and engage in other concerted activities for the purpose of collective bargaining or other mutual aid or protection. Also, Gorsuch wrote, quote, the NLRA secures to employees rights to organize unions and bargain collectively, but it says nothing about how judges and arbitrators must try legal disputes that leave the workplace and into the courtroom or arbitral forum. So there's a lot to what he said there, but if he's saying that the NLRA doesn't say anything about trying these cases, and it doesn't say anything about class action lawsuits, it doesn't say that you can't have class action lawsuits either. So like the mere fact that it's not addressed doesn't mean that it shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case that employees are prevented from banding together. Another criticism of arbitration is that when you don't have employees or people that band together, you can't prove a pattern of abuse. It's only about a specific case.
I think you hit on something right there. You can't prove a pattern of abuse.
No, it's only about, okay, well, I have this one grievance, but it's just my one word. How much weight does that hold? If I have a band of other people that have similar grievances against this employer, then that holds more weight, doesn't it? You're more powerful together.
And the thing is like, who is like the checks and balances here? Who is kind of forcing these companies to kind of set up an environment where their employees can collectively bargain? You know what I'm saying? Because with Gorgeous's opinion, it's like the NLRA has no teeth to affect anything. Because you need an outside mediator to ensure corporations allow collective bargaining. Like, without any kind of like watchdog or somebody making it to where these employers like kind of have to provide and create an environment to where collective bargaining is not, I guess, frowned upon, or the whole concept of it is not eviscerated by these arbitration policies, then there's, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
they're not actually being protected. This decision, it pretty much says we're not going to protect workers.
That's exactly what it says. And I just look like his reasoning is flimsy, it's baseless. Because if you're saying, again, like, if there's nothing in the NLRA that says like this has to be the case, I mean, that's not worth anything, because it's also not saying that it can't be the case. So why are you disallowing it? Like, well, why are you? It's not that the Supreme Court said that, oh, it can't happen. They're just giving the employers the ability to disallow it. But why would you protect workers like that and not employees, who are definitely not as powerful as the employer? If they have a grievance, you know that they are going to be more powerful, and they'll be able to like prove their case, like we were just talking about. They'll be able to prove their case better if they are actually together, because similar cases, similar abuses will, like I said, they'll establish a pattern. It just doesn't. In one of the dissenting opinions was, I believe, well, the dissenting opinion was penned by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she called it egregious, which is very accurate. I don't know, man. It just seems like every step of the way, in every single area, every environment, every atmosphere, man, just regular people are getting screwed over, man, and that's what's happening.
And we have 5 members of the Supreme Court that are in support of workers losing their ability to collectively bargain. I mean, if corporations are setting up a system that prevents or severely deters collective bargaining, then they're in violation of employee rights. And you would think the Supreme Court, or members of the Supreme Court that kind of voted to pretty much disallow these kind of collective bargaining type lawsuits or a class action lawsuits, you would think that they would understand that their decision is actually co-signing, employees losing their rights when it comes to them standing up to corporations. I just don't get it.
It's staggering to me, because these justices, hence the name,
justices,
are supposed to be working, for the Constitution and observance of the Constitution, and actually just ensuring that justice takes place, right? They're supposed to be interpreting the Constitution correctly. It just seems like this shouldn't be political, but for some reason, the Republicans that are on the bench are the 5 that actually voted for this. Why would this be political when this is about the rights of the worker? Because it's not just going to be Democrats that are going to be affected by this. It's going to be Republicans as well. That doesn't make any damn sense, does it?
It's another one of those instances where there's a tyrannical government that is giving certain people more power.
Yep.
This is an example of tyrannical government.
No
right?
doubt.
Don't people talk about, you know, making sure a tyrannical government doesn't take over by the use of what? The Second Amendment, right?
Yep.
This is government tyranny, in my opinion.
I didn't see anybody storming the gates.
I ain't see anybody storming no gates. I don't see anybody talking about shooting anybody up.
Nope.
Second Amendment remedies.
I don't see any well-trained or well-regulated militias.
Again, so because government tyranny is always framed around what? Mugs getting their door knocked in or getting their guns confiscated. But this is government tyranny right here.
So you know what's going to happen as a result of this. Corporations corporations, companies, small companies, big companies, it doesn't matter. Companies all across the country, with this decision, they're going to include this into their employee contracts.
Yeah, it's like, hey, if you want to get hired here, a part of the provision within, or like a clause within whatever your paperwork or whatever stuff you have to sign is going to include, hey, you can't work here unless you sign right here.
That's right. And that provision is going to state that if you have a grievance, then you're going to enter into arbitration. You cannot enter into a class action lawsuit. Take it or leave it.
Damn, boy, the wage gap is already outrageous. This is just going to put it into hyperdrive. Like, I don't know, man. When are people going to understand or wake up about capitalism, dude? Like, who it ultimately is designed to serve?
Exactly. Yeah, who is it serving? That's a whole nother argument. That's a whole nother issue right there. Capitalism. Not
crony capitalism either, man. This is damn capitalism, dog.
Yo, man, but you know, I've argued before. Is there a difference, really?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I like people like to argue.
Is there a difference? Because
this is the only kind of capitalism we've ever had.
Exactly. Like what people consider crony capitalism, it's capitalism because greed is in our system. Greed allows crony capitalism. It's just the way it goes. Like, if you don't do something about the system, then it is what it is. It would always foster corruption and crony capitalism. It just is what it is. I'm not gonna call it crony capitalism because it is what it is. It is not functioning.
Because all you're doing is just trying to offer some sort of cover.
Yeah, like a defense.
You're trying to offer a cover for capitalism.
Capitalism is great. Crony capitalism, that's what we got to do away with.
And then when you ask people, okay, what specifically are you talking about? Like, what specific kind of crony capitalist tactics and strategies are you going to call out? And everything that they call out is just normal capitalism.
All right, let's move on. Let's go
8:39.
Okay, let's go to the Montana incident. All right. All right. So there's a woman named Anna Suda, and her and her friend committed the very well-known crime of speaking Spanish in these United States of America.
It's the I guess it's like a violation of some sort of like
some statute or something like that.
Schlossberg statute.
Schlossberg statute.
It's a Schlossberg statute.
Yeah, we didn't even know it existed until just recently. But yeah, it must be on the book somewhere. So yeah, they committed that crime. They spoke Spanish. This happened in Havre, Montana last week. The two were stopped at a convenience store, picking up some items, and they were speaking to each other in the Spanish language. So there was a border patrol agent that was nearby, and he overheard the two speaking that very impermissible language of Spanish. So he I guess he approached them and he asked where they were born. So confused, they were like, what? Where were we born? What the hell are you talking about, right? So that led to the agent detaining them for about 35 to 40 minutes while he checked their ID. So we have a little bit of video footage from this instant.
51781.
So can you tell us in the video, please, why you ask us for our IDs, please?
Ma'am, the reason I asked you for your ID is because I came in here and I saw that you guys are speaking Spanish, which is very unheard of up here.
Okay.
Just run your name, date of birth.
We have accents. The just because our profile, right?
No.
Racial, perfect.
It has nothing to do with that.
No?
It's the fact that it has to do with you guys speaking Spanish in the store.
Spanish in the store.
In a state where it's predominantly English speaking.
Okay.
So we just come here to the store to buy milk and eggs. And this border patrol, he just asks for ID because we have an accent and we speak Spanish.
All right, so as you can hear, those two do have an accent. You know, they sound foreign, if you want to say that. But they are, in fact, American citizens. Suda, she was born in El Paso, Texas, but she was, well, I guess for a period of time, she was actually raised in Mexico, and, you know, they made a lot of different stops. But that's the reason behind, you know, her accent. Her friend was actually born in Central California, I believe. So they are American citizens. And if you couldn't hear the Border Patrol agent speaking when they asked, like, why did you stop us? Why did you ask for us for ID? Why are we being detained? He said, ma'am, the reason I asked you for your ID is because I came in here and I saw that you guys are speaking Spanish, which is very unheard of up here. So that location, Havre, Montana, is close to the Canadian border. So Border Patrol agents have a very broad controls. Like, if they're within 100 miles of the border, they're able to, you know, stop folks, you know, detain people. But it has to be under reasonable suspicion of an immigration violation or of somebody committing some kind of crime. Two people speaking Spanish, that's not reasonable suspicion.
But why would this Border Patrol agent or officer believe that was reasonable suspicion? That's the question.
Did he just come up with that himself?
Did he just come up with that himself? Or, which I think it's a bit of both. Of he came up with it himself, as far as what is, you know, what constitutes reasonable suspicion. But I also think that he probably thinks it's more permissible now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's something that he kind of already had in his mind to do, maybe he thinks it's more permissible now. You know what I'm saying? Because it just seems as if, like just like everyone else, we talk about this all the time. No matter if you put on a uniform, you are still human. You've internalized all the bad stuff and the good stuff, but you've internalized all the same bullshit everyone else has. The same bullshit that every other civilian, every other human living in the United States has internalized. And so that shit doesn't go away because he wears a uniform. And we have people every day, even before all these viral videos about people being harassed simply because they're speaking Spanish, like the Aaron Schlossberg. You know, that's not new. It's just kind of becoming
being captured on video.
So there's always been this attitude. I mean, ever since I just remember, even back in middle school, like just as far back as I can remember, just being aware of my surroundings as a teenager, as a kid, that has been an issue for a lot of people. That issue of people just speaking Spanish, people being offended. And so it just makes sense to me that this officer has internalized all that same shit, is now using his position to use that kind of bias as a way to gain some sort of traction in, you know, detaining people, using that as a reasonable suspicion to detain people.
So this video, well, the actual video was, you know, a little bit longer, and like I said, they were there detained for about like 35 to 40 minutes. But at one point in the video, one of the two ladies asked the Border Patrol agent, is speaking Spanish illegal now? Is it illegal here? And he was like, no, ma'am, you know, it's just unheard of here. So in that city, in that town, which is like I said, it's Havre, Montana. It's a population of about, I believe, 10,000 people. 4% of the people are Hispanic. So that's a small number of people. And there are definitely places like that in the South, like, you know, black populations that are even under 4%, you know, so I can understand being a minority and being surrounded by, you know, just white people. But 4% is still
a significant amount.
Yeah, it's still significant enough to say that you have seen somebody that is not white in the state, or not even in the state, just in that particular town or in that city. It's not that unheard of. Like, they're everywhere, right? Hispanic people are everywhere. Like, black people are everywhere. Asian people are everywhere.
And it also is inconsequential, the question about where she was born at. That's actually inconsequential. Because regardless of the answer that she gives, it only matters what her status is now. And he was under the assumption that their status was undocumented simply because they spoke Spanish. To me, that's definitely not an indicator that they're undocumented because they're speaking Spanish.
And if they did answer, I don't believe they answered because they were shocked at the question. But even if they did answer, like, well, I'm from Texas, I'm from California, would he have believed them?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's just trying to, like, find a reason to question them.
For speaking Spanish, man.
Like, I like when, like I don't understand why these, you know, Border Patrol officers don't. They already know they don't know, but they know we live in a technological age and they're going to be recorded. So it's like, why don't they get some more sophisticated with their bigotry? Why don't they get more creative? You were speaking Spanish? I mean, he could have said something like, I thought I noticed the MS-13 tattoo. Like, get more, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, upgrade your bigotry, dog. Like you're bad at this. Like
yeah, I get what you're saying. So, the Customs, Border and Protection Assistant Commissioner for Public Affairs, a guy by the name of Andrew Meehan, he told ABC News on Sunday night that the agent used a poor choice of words for sure. He used a poor choice of words. Now, see, that doesn't do it for me because
you're not saying that he did anything wrong.
Yeah, you're just saying that there was a problem with his language. No, there was a problem with his actions. I don't care what the man said. He used the very, like, non-consequential fact that these women were speaking Spanish as a reason to detain them and suspect them as being not American citizens, or not even not American citizens, but not having legal status in America, just because they were speaking Spanish. It's not about this Border Patrol agent using a poor choice of words. His actions were disgusting. That's what's the problem.
That apology or that justification. I know my apology. That pseudo apology sounds like similar to the other apology that we opened the show talking about.
The Schlossberger that got a statute of his own.
Aaron, yeah.
the same assistant commissioner for public affairs. He also said that it's possible that the agent very well could have been following procedure.
Well, there you have it.
Because just before that, he said speaking Spanish alone is not enough to pull somebody over and ask for their ID. So I don't understand that those two don't jive. Like, you can't reconcile those two statements because they don't go together. Either it is sufficient evidence or like reasonable concern that like would lead a Border Patrol agent to be like, hey, I need to see your ID speaking Spanish. Either that is policy or it's not. Like, he couldn't like very well have been following procedure if it's not policy.
Because see, here's the sticky part. Here's the sticky part.
This is dumb.
I know. No, I'm serious because see, there's an assumption that when police officers go out or Border Patrol officers go out, that their approach is always based on procedure. So he can actually make that statement with confidence because they probably employ their officers to use tactics that are against procedure to get the results that they want. So he can say it's against procedure, but and then also say, well, it may not have been against policy, because there's things that they do as officers and strategies and things that they implement that aren't procedure officially, but they do things to get around that. There's things that they do
like this, and
they know that. So that's why it's a contradiction to us.
Yes,
but it's not a contradiction to them. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're playing dirty.
There was another Border Patrol official that said that these two women, they weren't prevented from leaving and they weren't actually detained. They could have left at any time. But that's not true, because one of the women, Suda, she said that she asked the Border Patrol agent if she could pay for her items. The Border Patrol agent told her, no, give me your ID. That sounds like I'm being detained, doesn't it? Like, it sounds like you are detaining me without having to say you're detaining me. And there was a point in the video where she's like, you know what? This is going on long enough. Give me my ID. Give me my ID. No, I got to go home. My husband's waiting. No, I got to go. Give me my ID. You're going to have to arrest me if you want to. Give me my ID. The agent was like, oh, it's just going to be a few more minutes. It's going to be a few more minutes. It's going to be That sounds like she's being detained.
But see, again, since he didn't say it, that means he's not doing it. That's another instance where that's an out, even though he was violating procedure. You know what I'm saying? As long as he doesn't say I'm detaining you, he can detain them and violate procedure without violating procedure. Do you see what I'm saying?
So according to the Customs and Border Protection, they have launched an investigation. Yeah, okay. Sure, man.
What are they investigating? What is there to investigate? That's how you know nothing's gonna come.
Nothing's gonna come out of it, man. But I believe she's I believe she is either thinking about suing or she has already decided to sue. So since we're on law enforcement, let's go to Kansas. Okay, so black guy by the name of Rudy Samuel. He was driving through Winfield, Kansas 2 Sundays ago when he was pulled over for allegedly failing to signal a turn within 100 feet. Now, what should have been a simple warning or a simple citation turned into an event in which he was pulled out of his car, yanked out of his car, and his vehicle was searched. So Samuel recorded most of the event on Facebook Live, so we have a little bit of that footage.
Okay, getting pulled over in Winfield, Kansas. Again, officer says I failed to put my signal light on within 100 feet. And it wasn't 100 feet. But whatever. My insurance is good and my registration is good. I don't know what is taking so long. Ooh.
Hey, Mr. Samuel.
Yeah.
What caught my attention was this vegetation stuff right here.
That ain't got nothing.
So,
what is you vegetation? Let me see that. What? That's tree stuff, man. Test it. That gotta be from the tree, man.
Okay.
Y'all pulled me off for no.
All right, hold on just a minute. Let me put this in the bag real quick.
Yeah, man. What are you? That's from a tree, man. I don't even smoke. This man said vegetation on a car window. All right, I know y'all seen that. This man picked vegetation. Sir, you walked up to my car and said you pulled me over. What was the original reason you said you pulled me over?
I already explained that to you.
You told me because I failed.
I'm asking you to step out for me.
I failed to turn.
Yeah, step on out for me.
Sir, do you have a reason to,
I do.
for me?
I got the vegetation in the window.
That's from the tree, sir. I don't even smoke.
Okay, I'll test it here in a little bit, okay?
No, you gotta test it right now.
I ain't gotta test it right now. I need you to step out for me.
Step out for what? Sir, no. Facebook. Y'all see that, right?
Facebook. Stop resisting.
Y'all see? I'm not.
You are.
What am I
Relax.
getting
You're being detained.
for what? For what?
So I can search the vehicle.
You have to have a reason to search the vehicle.
You got that vegetation in your windowsill.
Who has vegetation on a
Relax.
windowsill?
Relax.
Sir, who has vegetation on a windowsill? Who has that? Please tell me who has
You want to take
vegetation.
him back there, pat him down, and I'll get this done.
You gotta have permission. I'll give no permission, no consent to search my vehicle. You have to test that before you can search my vehicle.
Negative, sir.
My uncle is a police officer. I'm not stupid, man. I know the. Hold up, sir. You know the law just like I do.
323
He
dispatch.
has to test that before he has consent. Yes, you do. I give no consent. I give no consent.
I have seen some foolishness. I have seen some just absurd, preposterous stops by law enforcement. I don't know if that might make its way all the way up to number one. I'm not sure. That was beyond ridiculous.
So he was aware of what he was being stopped for. He wasn't. He pretty much
told him. Yeah, he told him.
He told him, and he was like, "Okay." It didn't look like he was going to make a big stink. He was just like, "Yeah, whatever. I'm just waiting on my stuff." So you can't say that he wasn't being respectful. You can't say he wasn't being belligerent. You can't say he wasn't cooperating. He didn't really. He just took what the officer said and was waiting on the officer to come back with all his stuff. Now, I take it that even him being pulled over was bullshit.
Oh yeah, probably so.
That like what just happened.
Yeah,
that
that leads you to believe that.
That
right?
leads me to believe that
he was trying to find a reason.
He was trying to find a reason to pull this particular car over and use the whole signaling thing to do so. Now, upon obtaining his license and whatever registration, insurance, probably took it back to the squad car. They probably ran it. It was like, fuck.
Got nothing.
Like everything good. His license ain't suspended. Registration is up to date. Insurance up to date. He ain't got no warrants, no nothing. Fuck. What
Damn
we do? Dang, we want to harass this dude. We want to get this dude for something.
So what does this dude do?
So he immediately, because he's like, hey, so what's going on? What'd you pull me over for? Oh, look what I see. I was like, wait a second. You were already at the car. Do you see what I'm saying? He was already at the car once because he already had his license and registration and all that, and he already took it back. So he was already at the car. So why didn't he see the vegetation then?
The vegetation. That joint was so. It was obviously like some tree debris, just some like
grass,
tree dust, like some like just some stuff that fell off a tree, right? And he picks it up out of the crevice of the damn door, like where the window is like, yeah, you see this right here? This is what alarmed me right here. You know what? I'm gonna bag this up. You know, I'll be right back. Are you serious?
Wait,
like,
but we all know what the officer was suggesting.
Oh, no doubt.
That it was marijuana.
No doubt it was marijuana, right?
But is everything green marijuana? Is everything green marijuana?
No. Look, man, what if this officer wanted to look at the on the windshield by the windshield wipers where there is always like some leaves and some green stuff.
Or what about, have you ever opened your trunk?
Oh my god!
And haven't like cleaned around the seal.
Yes.
So when your trunk comes down,
it's a mess.
There's a mess in those little crevices, man.
Yes. I'm sure you could find like some greenish, brownish stuff right there. Are you telling me that that's like reasonable cause to yank somebody out of the vehicle and to search their vehicle?
Guess what? He didn't even smell it.
Didn't even smell it.
He said, "I'm putting this in the baggie. I'll be right back." I was like,
"That's not reasonable suspicion."
You have to test it. They have testing kits with them.
No, all he's gonna do is put it in the car in a baggie, and then come to the car and say, "Now I have the right to yank you out of your vehicle and search your vehicle." Are you? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So anyway, no drugs were found in the car. Surprise, surprise. And the event ended with Samuel being issued, I believe it was 2 warnings. I don't know why 2 warnings. Like what the 2? One, I guess one was about the stop, not failing to signal within 100 feet. I don't know what the other warning was about. Don't have vegetation that wouldn't even like if you're like
you bothered, dog. You bothered.
I'm trying to get my mind. Okay, look, for the weed smokers out there, right? For the cannabis enthusiast, would you have cannabis on your windshield, like on a window outside of your vehicle? That's a waste of weed. Like nobody would do that.
A lot of people. I've seen this. I knew it was coming. People were saying, well, maybe he tried to, tried to throw it out the window when he got pulled over.
Gosh.
Maybe he tried to throw it out the window. But I was okay. That's fine. Okay. But you still haven't answered the question as to why didn't the officer test it?
Why didn't he even smell it?
Why didn't he even smell it?
All he did was, all right, that's it.
That's all I need.
There was no inspection whatsoever.
And actually, we don't actually even know whether that was even there.
Yeah, because all he did was this.
All he did was this.
Man, whatever. So, the officer's name, it was Master Officer Sean Scov, right? So the Winfield Police Department, they declined to give any information about the incident. They only are saying that the incident is still under investigation. Of course, under investigation.
What is there to investigate?
I guess they have to investigate the sample.
Oh, they have to go. Look, they have to finally test that little sample, the vegetation.
They have to test it, man. Yeah.
And see,
waste of taxpayer dollars too, right?
And that's the thing. Like when we talk about law enforcement reform, and we focus on prosecutors, we focus on judges, we focus on laws, and then of course we focus on, I guess, the physical enforcement of the law by way of law enforcement on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you can't tell me that law enforcement officials on the ground, uniformed law enforcement officials, don't have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, it's like, regardless of the policy, drug policies or drug laws, they still have a mind of their own. And this is why, I guess, cops get swept up in this conversation about law enforcement, and not just because of brutality, not because of, unarmed people getting shot or people getting kicked in the head or people being physically abused. We're talking about police officers kind of almost like not allowing themselves to think for themselves, like not allowing themselves to have rational thought while they're doing their job, and then use drug laws as a way to harass people. And like, this kind of tactic has to be something that this particular officer or these 2 officers personally engaged in, because this has nothing to do with drug laws.
No. And I know, like, we're kind of we are laughing about it, joking about it. To be honest, if I'm Rudy Samuel in that situation, first of all, I mean, I don't know if I would be too alarmed because, of the stop and the so-called violation, even, if I knew I was in the right, but, maybe I think, just trying to harass me. I don't know if I would be too alarmed at that point, but the point in which the officer comes back and actually pulls something out of the crease of the vehicle where the window is, that signals to me that this officer is going above and beyond to find something, and I don't know what he's going to do next. That's the point where I'm actually scared for my life now. You
already you're getting treated unfairly, and this is some bullshit.
Like, how far are you going to go next?
And again, that what just happened has nothing to do with drug laws, because that officer has a choice regardless of what drug laws exist. So this is why we can't have any sympathy for cops in situations like this, because people say they're just enforcing the law. But I was like, even if you disagree with, marijuana being illegal and the drug laws that are currently on the books, okay, that's a different story. But that doesn't mean that officers have to create situations where they violate people's rights. That has nothing to do with drug laws.
No, it doesn't. And this case is really centered around that one particular officer, Officer Sean Scov. But there was another officer on the scene as well. I don't know what the name of that officer is.
Oh, the dude with the white sunglasses?
Exactly. But I'm just trying to figure out, where was the good cop in this situation? Like, where were you at? Because you weren't the one that yanked Samuel out of the vehicle, but you sure enough didn't protest it either. You sure enough didn't say,
you didn't say, hey,
this
man,
is a violation of this man's rights.
We gotta test this. We gotta test this before we do this, man. And again, if he was just like following procedure in regard to drug laws, fine, those laws are on the books.
But yeah, this was not following any kind of procedure that is notable in any damn police department around the country. You're not gonna pick up vegetation, tree debris, and say that, hey, you know, this is reasonable enough suspicion for us to get you up out of the vehicle and perform a search. No, that's a violation of this man's rights. So,
you know what's interesting? I wonder how many of these cops, right, that engage in this type of behavior as civil servants, members of the government. I always wonder what is the political affiliation of a lot of these officers, and what kind of views do they espouse? Like, I wonder, like, if some of these same officers that seek to abuse their power over those that are in situations like this, for those that have no power. I wonder how many of these people, these officers, talk about government tyranny and government being too big and government overreach, and tyrannical government. I wonder how many of these officers who
they're part of the human population, so I guarantee you there's
and do this stuff
pretty good percentage,
and not realize and not recognize the irony.
But they're punching up. They're punching up. Yeah. See, they can be can be tyrannical to the people that, you know, they're supposed to be serving, because they have a more powerful place in society.
Or maybe they just have kind of determined the character of these people that they want to violate the rights of, and they justify violation of those people's rights by how they've defined those people. You know what I'm saying? Like animals, or you know what I'm saying? So they justify it that way. So they don't see themselves as being tyrants, because these are bad people. So we have to do this to
boot
those
on
people.
the neck.
Yeah.
So anyway, Samuel, the Huffington Post reported that Samuel is now contemplating filing a lawsuit against the police department.
No. Yo, I hope he get broke off.
I hope he I mean, it should be definite. There's nothing to contemplate. File the lawsuit, because there's nothing but injustice right here. Just a little bit more injustice. This goes back to almost 3 years ago now. In November of 2015, a black homeless man by the name of Emory Ellis tried to buy breakfast at a Burger King in Boston, Massachusetts. Just buying breakfast. He ended up getting arrested and spending more than 3 months in jail before being released. So how this all came to fruition is that when he tried to purchase his meal, he used a $10 bill. The Burger King employee immediately flagged it as fake, fraudulent, phony. Now, incorrectly so, because it wasn't phony. But anyway, he flagged it as such, and he called the police. The police came, arrested Ellis, and since Ellis, he had some kind of criminal history, and he was on parole. Since that was his current status, he was denied bail. So he ended up spending more than 3 months in jail before the bill was actually tested and proved to be authentic. And then they released him 3 months later. Or, like I said, over 3 months later. He never received an apology.
Did he receive his $10 back?
He also never received his damn $10 bill back. Nope. So he didn't even get a meal. He didn't get his $10 bill. He didn't get an apology, but he did get over 3 months in jail.
I guess they'll say that they helped him out because he was fed. Okay, there's issues at multiple levels. First, the cashier was at Burger King, you said?
Yep.
The cashier. Number one, like I said, I don't know what the policy is at Burger King, but I know most retail locations, you check bills, all bills over 20. And at the registers,
10 is pretty small.
10 is pretty small. But all bills over 20.
I think that's pretty standard.
That's pretty standard. But you don't, even if you suspect that a $20 bill is counterfeit, usually you can't just look at it and tell.
Right.
Sometimes you can say it's suspicious, but usually they have those little markers.
Right.
They have those little markers. Now, if the cashier is going to be suspicious of a $10 bill, fine. But first, you don't call the police. Cashiers don't do that. Cashier goes to the manager first. Then the manager calls the police. But before you would do that, you would test it to see. All right, that's the first step, fucked up step. All right, now the cop comes, the police officer comes. Now, I don't know the mental capacity or I don't know how coherent this police officer is at, recognizing certain situations and for what they are. But the first thing that you would do before arresting someone would be what?
You probably have to determine that a crime has been committed.
And how would one go about doing that?
I would assume in this situation where it surrounds the authenticity of a bill, you would have to determine if the bill was fake or authentic.
And also,
before an arrest can be made.
All right, and if the officer himself didn't have the tools or the utility to see if the bill was fake right there, I would assume that he would ask the establishment, which is Burger King, hey, did you prove it was fake? Do you have one of those little counterfeit pencils, or one of those the little light that you put it under to test before I arrest this person? So I can give an employee the pardon even though they fucked up, or the manager, because I'm sure it went through the manager first. I can give them a pardon because they're not the law. But when the law shows up and then they fail to go through a simple process of verification, then that's when I'm just like,
going even a step further than that, let's say okay, obviously steps were not employed here. Steps were skipped, right? Obviously, because he was arrested before it was determined that the bill was fake, right? Okay, so that's a problem. But what also is a problem is that he spent over 3 months in jail. Are you telling me that it takes over 3 months to determine if a $10 bill is fake or authentic? Or was this man's status just not important enough to actually determine that? He's a homeless man. He's been in the system before. Let's let him rot in jail. He's it shouldn't take precedence, who cares?
You would think that something that could be easily proven or disproven would take precedence. It's not like this is basically an open and shut case.
It's simple to prove. Either or. It's simple.
Whether it was proving it on the site or proving it after he was actually when he got taken away, they could have done it then. You know what? I doubt that whatever officer arrested him, the fact that he arrested a homeless man without actually going through the verification process of whether the bill was real or fake, that actually tells me that I don't know if it was a female or male.
I'm not sure.
That tells me that they had nothing to do. That tells me they had nothing better to do. So they had time on their hands, so they could have verified it.
A more, I guess, understandable situation would be if they were trying to deconstruct a substance, what exact substance is this that this man has? We have to take it to the lab. We got to isolate these molecules, and we got to isolate all these substances and this and that. No, it was a $10 bill, a $10 bill.
Okay, yes, and since we're on this subject, this is the last thing we're going to cover before we take phone calls.
Yeah.
I see a comment in the chat from a user that I've never heard before. I've never seen before, sorry, because you can't hear comments. But apparently we're missing the point. because the point is to put the powerless in prison under any circumstances because it's profitable. Private prisons make $75,000 a year for putting a man in prison. Well, it is highly irresponsible of you to determine or to make a determination about what we understand about the criminal justice system from one story we are covering. If we were to actually talk about this case and connect it to private prisons and the criminal justice system and law enforcement reform and capitalism, it would take up every hour of the show every day. So that's not the subject right now, so we're not going to talk about it. We're just talking about how ridiculous this case is.
Like the point is valid to say that.
Yeah.
Because of course we know that like it's slave labor in our prisons. You know, like people are put in jail for long periods of time and certain segments of the population for longer periods of time when they shouldn't be. We all know the rules. I mean the game is constructed like that, but I don't know if it's apt to actually say that at this point.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's really. I don't think that's really necessary. And also, like I said, I don't recognize your name.
No, he's commented.
Really?
Before.
Well,
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah, he's commented.
So what I'm saying is, it's just if you maybe you haven't watched all of our shows or all of our live shows, but we have kind of addressed the private prison industry at like in detail.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's necessary to always connect every single story to that. I think it was important to I guess deal with it in the way we did, because this story wasn't just about the private prison industry and how much money they make, because this involved Burger King employees.
Exactly. It wasn't just about the justice system. Yeah. It was about the employees like skipping Burger King as a company skipping steps, calling the police when that shouldn't have been the case. And then it does get to police officers too. One thing I'm disappointed about is that this guy, now, like I said, this is about two and a half years ago that this happened in 2015. But Emory Ellis, he's now suing Burger King for $950,000. What I'm disappointed about is that he's not actually suing the police department, like, because it seems as though they made grave errors as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree that Burger King is culpable in this situation, but so is the officer, so is the police department.
And I think I don't want to stress this. Well, actually, I do want to stress this. So I just can't stress it enough. Just like in the previous story where we were talking about the officers and how they treated, what's his name in Kansas with the vegetation? What was his name?
Rudy Samuel.
Mm-hmm. It's not like they did not have a choice in that matter and how they treated that man. Mm-hmm. So yes, we understand that the private prison industry kind of prompts officers to kind of treat people in a certain way and like approach people with disregard and kind of imprison them and put them in jail without any regard for who they are in their life, because yes, there is a private prison industry. But one thing that definitely needs to be said is that police officer still has a choice, though. That police officer is making a choice to be a police officer. That police officer is making a choice to engage people like that. So again, that's still, you can't have a system without people to people buying into the system. You can't have a system without cooperation from different levels within the system. Mm-hmm. So we can't just say private prisons, that's the problem.
And that's why outside the system too, because Burger King had a place in this.
Yeah, and that's why the cop did it. Like, as if the cop doesn't have a choice. That's kind of like where I'm coming from. The cop still has a choice. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the cop is just a robot. They choose to be a robot, and they choose to be in those positions, and they choose to treat people like that, regardless of what the law is and regardless of the private prison industry.
All right, so that was the last story that we had to cover tonight. So what we're gonna do is open this up for callers to call in, and if you have any questions or comments, anything to say on the program about anything that we have discussed, or maybe some news that's relevant, maybe some it's probably still a little bit too early for results for the the primaries that's taking place tonight, but if anything's on your mind that you want to get out there and discuss, please feel free to call us. The number is, let me put it on the screen, it's 669-900-6833, and we'd love to hear your voice and what you have to offer to the conversation.
And I want to give a quick shout out to Gear I think that was who kind of shoveled over some cash through Super Chat. Appreciate that. Thank you. All
right, so let's set this up real quick. All right, should be ready to go. We don't have any.
Endo C says the system is more powerful than the individual choice. True.
That's true.
That's partially true. But see, we have an issue with breaking down terminology. That's what we have an issue with. And when you say the system is more powerful than individual choice, you're comparing two different things. You're talking about choices, and you're talking about a system that is full of individuals. Like, those two things aren't comparable.
You're kind of relieving the officers from responsibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you're saying that like they have to do it. What I'm saying is like the system is full of individuals. That's the larger point. You say the individuals, the system is more powerful. Yes, but the system is full of individuals. The system is not like a automated machine dispensing out improper justice. It's a network of individuals doing that, cooperatively doing that.
All right, we got our first caller. It is from the 443. Caller, you are on the air live with LTMB. What's going on? I believe this is Court.
How y'all doing tonight? Yep.
What's going on, man?
That's who it is. How y'all doing tonight?
Man, we good, man.
Yeah, we chilling, man. Good to hear from you.
About that Santa Fe high school shooting.
Yeah, man. What you got to say about it, man?
I was thinking about how that nobody really you really didn't get any information on the shooter for quite a while, and you didn't get a death toll on the shooter for quite a while. And I was chatting back and forth on Reddit, and I said, I wonder if the shooter is white or Christian nationalist or neo-Nazi or something like that, because they're not really giving out too much information. They're not, because like the last one, you got the number of people killed, and you didn't get the guy's name right away, but you got it a lot quicker than you did this time. And I'm thinking it's because they just don't want to admit anymore that the kids doing these school shootings, like they're subscribing to white nationalist ideology and neo-Nazi ideology, and it's becoming a problem. So it's kind of bothering me. And also, I'm going to ask you guys about the decision that Trump made today with not today, but Monday, where he called in Rosenstein and he called in Christopher Wray, I believe his name is, and he said that he wanted them to investigate whether or not someone was planted in his campaign as an informant. And just the audacity, the gall, really. Here you are, the commander-in-chief, you're under investigation yourself for obstruction of justice. You're using your powers to basically obstruct justice. You're doing it on national television. The media is just completely complicit in all of this. They have absolutely no dog in this fight. As far as they're concerned, they want to continue to pump up the hype about the Mueller investigation and completely ignore the fact that Trump is dismantling all kinds of shit like habeas corpus and the Fourth Amendment and all kinds of shit, but nobody's paying any attention to it. I just want to know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, no, everybody. I think it's just Russia is kind of overshadowing some of the other things that he could possibly be caught up in, especially with all the different businesses and the stuff that he set up right before he got elected and after he got elected. His son-in-law's dealings with Saudi Arabia, but nobody's talking about that. But as far as him trying to get the DOJ to investigate whether there was some sort of mole planted or informant planted, I think it's like people are making it more complicated than it really is, including Trump. I'm not even sure he recognizes how simple it is. I mean, if someone is already under FBI surveillance, and then that person who is under FBI surveillance comes into contact and makes routine contact with people in your campaign, then guess what? That means the FBI is going to devote eyes to your people. It's just that simple. It's actually not that complicated.
But what Trump is doing too is I mean, it's very improper though. I mean, it's very hypocritical, one too, because he complained about the FBI and the DOJ being corrupt and to the top levels of these organizations. But now he wants their assistance in trying to figure this out. Was there a plant? But as the president of the United States, again, he's like you can't instruct the FBI or the DOJ to investigate like anything because you're the president of the United States. You don't have that right to do that. These are separate they're separate institutions,
and it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah,
as well.
it's definitely a conflict of interest. They have to be able to go after whatever they want. Like, it's not a political organization, right? The FBI and the DOJ, these aren't political organizations. They're not supposed to be. So he's setting up a really dangerous precedent where he can just kind of circumvent the rule of law or like what's accepted.
And he's kind of using how people distrust government and distrust the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, everything involving surveillance. He's kind of using that. He's exploiting that for his advantage. And somehow people think, and we've heard this from a lot of people, that he is somehow trying to gut the FBI and the CIA and all the surveillance agencies of corruption because they have too much power. I was like, do people really believe he's against the FBI and CIA for reasons of integrity? Or is he going after the CIA and the FBI because they're investigating him? I think it's the latter, and people just need to just stop.
But even Republicans that are supportive of this administration or just of the Republican Party, it's amazing that they wouldn't consider this like an abuse of power, because the situation that Trump is setting up is that he's leading the DOJ or he is leading the FBI, where there should be a separation of powers. You can't have the president of the United States being like the head of these organizations. That should be something that the Republicans
Trump does,
but they don't.
I think what Trump does, honestly, what he does, he makes it. He's like a fire hose of falsehoods. He throws so much stuff out there. You can't possibly hope to pick out any one thing to dissect and attack him on. It's just too much stuff that's coming out. So you always end up on the downside of the fight. And when he goes and attacks institutions of government, right, like the FBI. Now, I'm not a fan of the FBI. They gave us COINTELPRO. J. Edgar Hoover had files on Lottie everybody. These are not great guys, right? But one thing that you can say is that they go after their cases independently, right? They don't take commands from the president himself. They just
Right.
It's not how it works. They have to actually go through a process. Have to get warrants and things. You don't just say, "Oh, I want you to investigate this because it's investigating me." It's utterly ridiculous. And the reason why Republicans put up with it is because they're afraid of the minority population in the country. And they know that law enforcement, especially stuff like the FBI, is their arm to take out any kind of influential power
resistance.
Structure. What the FBI is used for, you know what I mean? Like the police are used for individual violation of rights, protection of property, things like that. The FBI and the CIA and all this, those organizations are used to take down people who have influence or organizations that have influence. That's why they're there. So when the president uses his powers to do this kind of stuff, the Republicans should be up in arms, but they're not, because they know that they're the recipients of the benefits of this whole thing. This whole dismantling, even though it's going to hurt the average American, and by average American I mean black and white, and Hispanic, and Asian, even though it's going to hurt the average American, right? The Republican Party is not built on the idea that it should feel pain. The Republican Party is built on the idea that it should have all of the resources. That's it. They don't really care that they feel like when you see these people get like smacked in the face, like they end up with like a gay niece or something like this. Like they bullshit themselves into believing it's not true. They give them plain facts and about science and stuff. They don't care. So that's why they don't care about Trump dismantling their rights. He's going to use it against them, of course. You know, when he's got Scott Pruitt with the EPA holding meetings about contaminating the environment. He's not letting CNN and the AP in. I wonder why. It's probably because he wants to make sure nobody gets to sue him when he starts dumping industrial waste all over rural America. But these people don't care because they know that it's going to hurt minorities worse. So it's just like I think his name was Lee Atwater. They just don't care about the consequences. I mean, they're willing to destroy the entire planet based on the idea that climate change is a myth, they think an unfounded myth. The 97% of the scientific community will say this is a true event. People are experiencing tornadoes in December in Mississippi, and people are like, "Oh yeah, it's a hoax." So you can't really argue that they're going to do the right thing as a Republican Party. They're not.
Well, like you said, man, it's about like you said, it's about who's on the the lowest rung of us. Who's on the lowest end of that totem pole. And these Republicans, just like the case with slavery, man, this goes back generations. Like the poor white people that didn't have any slaves, that they didn't have any money or any income, but they weren't as bad off as the black people. So, I mean, what are they going to complain about?
And they're kind of bucking for a chance to kind of, I guess, be invited and kind of be...
They saw opportunity.
Yeah, that's their opportunity to be in that upper crust. And they're actually willing to roll that dice on that. So, again, this is not just our power structure. This is this. We have a whole group of people who are buying into that power structure and kind of want to reap the benefits of that power structure and are willing to, I guess, like I said, roll the dice, even if on the back end they might be affected because they're just kind of bucking for a chance to be a part of that elite group. It may not be the 1%, but it may be, some. It may be, upper middle class or something like that.
But they, like I said, they see opportunity though, because it's like there's always this long running narrative about voting against your own best interest, right? And it's pretty much always tied to the Republican Party, but they just don't see it like that. A lot of them don't see it like that because those hot button issues that these Republican candidates always press on, they always harp on, is what matters to them. Like, if you support, like, if this candidate supports this, like, if they're against abortion, or if they're against any immigration, or if they're against marriage equality, or, whatever the case, those kind of hot button, passionate issues, like, the economy is like a distant, like, 9th, 10th, 11th. I mean, it's way down the line, and it's like, it causes them to like dream in this like fairy tale world, like, hey, that's gonna come along. These people are, I guess, people of upstanding character, and they're actually interested in my best interest. So yeah, that's the way I'm gonna go. It just never changes.
Yeah, I see nothing as it seems in the chat bringing up that $21 trillion that the Pentagon lost. Yeah, like. I'm glad
stuff like that. Imagine if about Elon Musk, right? Now, Elon Musk is a pretty well-known popular dude. Imagine if Elon Musk lost the...
Can't hear you,
Yeah,
Court.
feed went out. Can't hear you, Court. Oh,
no, that doesn't have anything to do with this, though. Yeah,
Like,
Court, we can't hear.
like what?
All right, here you go.
It's like, what, really? Wait, it's got to be $1 billion. It can't be $1 trillion. Tell me it's not $1 trillion.
I think nothing as it seems. What was it $1 trillion or was it $1 billion? I think it was damn trillion, Court. I can't remember. I think it was $1 trillion.
If it was $1 trillion, you gotta be shitting me.
It was and nothing as it seems. Do you remember? Nothing as it seems. Do you remember? Because I only skimmed an article, a couple articles. Do you remember over like what period that was over? Like how? Because it wasn't
2014, wasn't it?
Was it?
Was it 2014?
I think it was before then. I think they went back before then. It was a cumulative amount over a certain period of time, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I remember there was like a 6.5 trillion.
I can't remember. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so this isn't 1 year's budget. This is like over years, and
if you're still on the stream.
That's not.
That's still ridiculous. I mean, like that's still crazy.
It's still crazy, but at least it's not 1 year's budget. I'm like,
but I think that it's kind of since looking at his other chatter in the stream, I think kind of all that fits together because he's talking about all the alphabet agencies and the surveillance, and that kind of opens up the conversation about where that money is actually going to, and it kind of makes me think about that show Scandal and B613.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't lose $21 trillion, man. I don't care if you lost it, 10 years. You don't lose $21 trillion. You know where that money went. You're just not telling people. It's just like when they found out Cohen, who was it? Michael Cohen got $500,000 from AT&T. I was like, yeah, you don't get $500,000.
And there was a whistleblower who basically violated the law because there were transactions that were being erased from the system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. It's so shady. It's just so shady, and people just blow this stuff up. Half people don't even know this stuff is happening. That is really shocking. If you talk to the average person, you bring up stuff, and they're like, "Oh, politics. Oh, are you stupid?"
Do you think that do you think a part of that, I guess, people not caring about what is being done like that on a large scale from our biggest institutions, do you think they overlook that because it would put it would kind of taint their idea of America and United States being exceptional in a moral sense as well? You know what I'm saying? Like something big like that, you think that would kind of, like, I guess.
I don't think it gets that deep. I think what you find when people learn politics and people learn any kind of system of thought, philosophy, religion, whatever, what have you, you have to start and you have to repeat. Start and you have to repeat, right? Now in America, before I'd say 1985, 89-ish, early 90s, it was customary for your dad to come home with the paper. He would open it up. He would read the news. He would keep you informed. You would further, like in the 60s and stuff, people were glued to the television sets for the news. You know what I mean? Because it was the Vietnam era. Back in the 50s, you had nowadays, it's not. It's people are taught to follow politics. Like they've added a bunch of extraneous, necessary bullshit, uninteresting to the average person and attainable to the average person. And this way they manufacture.
Well, you're breaking up, Court. I can't hear anything you're saying.
Yeah, if you're talking, I heard a little bit of what you said.
Yeah, it's got to be a bad connection now.
Yeah. Sound like you in a bunker, boy.
Yeah, man. Can't hear nothing.
You get ready for the zombie apocalypse.
Get right.
sorry.
Yeah.
I watched Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The Fear of the Walking Dead.
I watched that before I came. I watched that before the show. Man.
All right, Court, man. We're gonna let you go, man. Thank you for calling in again, man. We hope we hear from you on Thursday.
Yeah, it is.
All right, man. I just checked the. I just checked the primaries in Georgia. Seems that Stacey Abrams has easily defeated Stacey Evans for the race for the governorship in Georgia. Seems like that's what the AP is reporting, that it was a easy win. I haven't seen any numbers yet, but they're already calling it, so it must be a pretty substantial margin that she's commanding. So she will be, I believe she will be the first. She's trying to be the first black female governor in the United States of America, not just in a state, but in America and as a whole. But I think she already made history by becoming the first black female nominee of a major political party for governor. So, Oh man, goodness. All right, so it's about 47% of the precincts reporting, and Stacey Abrams is at like 75%, which is
even though all the precincts
more than
haven't
overwhelming.
Reported, that's still a hefty. Well,
because that's it's almost at half, right? 47%. And she's eclipsing her by over 100,000 votes. There's no way to make that up. No way to make that up.
And actually, Brian Kemp gave Casey Cagle a run for his money right now.
Well, those were the two front runners, Cagle and Kemp.
Actually, Hunter Hill ain't doing bad either. But he's way behind considering.
Michael Williams, deportation bust, is running a distant fifth. I think he was polling at like 3%. So
he's doing better.
Yeah.
He's already at 5%.
He's getting about 5%. 47% of the precincts reporting. So hey, there's that.
And it says the polls close at 7. So, but
I think everybody expected Cagle to win that primary. And go up against the Democratic nominee.
But again, look at the voter turnout, even though the same amount of precincts have been reported, or the same percentage. Just look at the voter turnout, dude.
That's a lot more Republican.
But see, I would say, I know, it's a lot more Republican, a lot more.
It's like a lot more Republican. A lot more Republican. I don't know, man. I mean, again, like I'm not, I wasn't gonna say which one, I supported, either Evans or Abrams, because first of all, it's somewhat new for me. I've only been aware of these two candidates for a short time anyway.
I think the first time we were even kind of reported on anything about this campaign was when Stacey Evans
the campaign ad. Yeah, so it's just like we were saying before, ideologically these two are almost mirror images of themselves. There are minuscule differences between them. Now I've heard some analysis saying that I guess Abrams seems like she's, more straightforward than Evans was. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea. I'm not against Abrams at all, though. I forgot. There was another criticism. It's not about policy, though. So Evans criticized Abrams because she did not endorse Keisha Lance Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta.
That's right, the mayor of Atlanta.
So Keisha Lance Bottoms, she won a tight election back in November, and Abrams did not come out and endorse her. Now, she does support her, but she didn't come out and endorse her because, as she tells it, she learned that Bottoms was going to endorse Evans. So she didn't want to be publicly supporting somebody that was not supporting her.
Okay, I see now. I can't fault her for that.
Yeah, I can't fault her for that. This was, but Evan's claim was that, hey, as progressives, we have to stand up for other progressives. We got to make sure that they get into office. So you have cachet, you have a very notable voice, you have some clout. You needed to put your voice out there and be supportive of her and instruct voters to come to the polls and get her in office.
Well, shouldn't Bottoms have done that for Abrams? If that's her advice for Abrams, well, shouldn't Bottoms have done that for Abrams?
I guess because in this race there was only that one progressive.
Okay.
Yeah, Bottoms. So, I don't know. It's a criticism, especially if you're Evans.
But if you're Bottoms, don't throw your hat with one person. If your whole idea is to just support progressives, why not just kind of throw your support? I don't know how you would do that, but kind of like champion both of them.
Right. At that point in time, I'm not sure if Bottoms had actually publicized that she was backing Evans or not. But it seems as though Abrams felt that she was going to come out and support her, so she didn't want to get into that game. So, like I said,
got some Cynthia McKinney talk going on here.
Yeah, brush that aside.
Right?
Brush that right aside.
I don't want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah, brush that right aside.
But what didn't court bring up? I think the Trump comments were second. The first comments were about the shooting and how. Like the information about the shooting didn't come out immediately, and then later on it was found that he kind of, because it was, I guess, found that he was kind of into a lot of, I don't know, he had extreme political views or whatever. I think.
See, I didn't see that he had that kind of view. I didn't really see a lot of his background information, if there was any background information that was actually reported. I saw some some posts that he made, I believe, on Facebook before his account was taken down. The T-shirt.
The T-shirt. Said, I'm a murderer or something.
Yeah, something about kill.
I'm about to kill. Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't hear anything about his ideology. One thing that I forgot to note about that too is about his father, though. So we talked about how it's I guess probable that
he got the guns
from him, right? Yeah. So his father came out recently and said that he believes that something must have happened recently with his son, and he believes that he was the victim of bullying. He described his son as a victim. Now, I understand you're in a tough place as a parent of somebody that commits some kind of heinous act like this. As a parent of a kid that kills people, you're in a really bad place because nothing's gonna take the love that you have away from that child. But nothing's gonna take that away.
He's shouldering some of the guilt.
Yeah, but in days after the shooting where eight students and 2 teachers were killed, you're gonna lump your son in as a victim in this period of time? That is out of bounds, man. Like, what the hell are you doing? He's not a victim, man. He's the perpetrator. He committed an evil act. At this point, I just don't care if he was bullied or not. That's not the issue, okay? That's for some psychologist in the jail to maybe help him out with that, help him out with that, so because there may be a point in time that he actually sees the light of day again, maybe in 40 years, right? But at this period of time, it's about the victims that aren't here anymore and the victims that he actually injured. I believe there was 13 of them that he actually injured, including a school resource officer that was pretty badly laid up too.
See, that would the whole bullying thing, kind of that angle would only work if the person actually targeted the people that bullied him. To me, that's the only way that works. To me, that doesn't work. I'm just saying it doesn't work at all. But if you're going to use that as the reason and the primary reason somebody went off, then the person that is the perpetrator of whatever shooting, stabbing, whatever weapon they choose to use for retaliation for being bullied, then it's they should target the people that bullied them. That just
as a parent, I don't know this dude's backstory.
I just don't.
But as a parent, you can't not. At no point in time can you frame your kid that committed an act like this as a victim. You just can't do that. Not unless you're saying that he's a victim of you. If you're saying that, then maybe you can shoulder some of that guilt and say, hey, it's some of my fault. He's a victim of me. But you can't say that he's a victim in that school
because he didn't. And then he's saying that without no knowledge of what was going on.
He's
at
just
the school. He's just saying.
He's just throwing stuff out there.
That's another problem with it. That's another problem with it. He's just saying that because he's probably saying that because of the report came out about what the girl said.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
But think about how much of a slap of a face that is to the people that lost their that lost their kids. I mean, like, your son's a victim. Your son killed my kid, man. Like, I believe it was on Saturday. Like, I was just, it was pretty much like a regular day. I can't remember what I was doing, but I remember I was like playing with the kids, and just kind of like joking around, laughing and stuff, right? And then all of a sudden it like hits me. Like, I'm thinking about Santa Fe. I'm thinking about the high school. I'm thinking about all these people that lost their lives. And it's just like this overwhelming like feeling comes over you. It's like, damn, man, it's like people lost they lost their children just a day earlier, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I'm sitting here laughing and joking with my kids. It's like, I know life goes on and you have to enjoy every second of it, but it's just like, damn, man.
I feel you, man.
That dude is not a victim. I'm sorry. He's not a victim, man. The only thing that father should be saying is that, yes, he feels sorry for the lives that are lost. And pretty much lead and end with that, man. There's nothing you can say that's going to alleviate any pain.
I wish I could have kind of noticed the signs myself as a father, and apologize. That, hey, I didn't see any signs. I wish I could have noticed, to maybe offer some sort of assistance to him as far as communication and help. Maybe he wouldn't be, driven to do something like this.
But you don't leave it at that. You don't portray him as a victim. You're not a victim when you kill people, man. Bullying is not the crime for bullying is not death. That's what I'm saying. Like, it may be an issue. It's not that it may be an issue. It's definitely an issue. But the crime is not death. You understand? Like, your son could have been a victim had he not killed those people. But since he did, he is the perpetrator. He is not a victim anymore. He's 17 years old. He's a big boy.
That's a good idea, Gene. Keep these parents away from the media until they can think straight. Yeah, because they're essentially fresh.
Yeah.
Like, they're fresh out of a tragedy, so they're all over the place emotionally.
The media are vultures, though. And
that,
you know what I'm saying?
They
want to stay.
They are literally camped outside of people's houses waiting for them to walk out.
Man. Immediately, because they want a statement. They want to, hey, you have any inside information about how your son could have done this and blah blah.
And now Mr. Dead kind of shortly stated what that's about. Mm-hmm. The ratings.
Just media fascination, man. No, just stay away. Don't make any statements, man. If you're gonna make a statement, I wouldn't even advise you make like a vocal statement. Put a press release out. Just put a statement out there. We are deeply saddened by the events that transpired. We apologize for the loss of life. That's it. There's nothing they could say to alleviate pain. Not one single thing. So don't even try.
God dog. This, and like, it was just 47% reported.
So yeah, it's over 50, over halfway, 50, yeah. And she's still at 75%. Yeah, I mean, it's over. I mean, it's no doubt over. It's no doubt over. The top two, all right. So, the only two in the Democratic race right now, they're at what, about 270,000? All right, 277,000. The top two in the Republican race are at about 258,000, but that's not even counting the other three, which
come out to 300, almost 400,000.
It's gonna be. I mean, like, look, man.
It's gonna be hard for Abrams, man.
There's no
looking
doubt.
at voter turnout.
There's no doubt that I'd like to see Abrams as the mayor, or you know what I mean, as the governor in Georgia. It's gonna be a tough road, man.
Because you know good and well, even the losers in the Republican primary, like Michael Williams, they're definitely going to be voting for Cagle. Clay Tippins and Hunter Hill, those voters, the people who voted for them, are definitely going to be voting for the front runner and not Abrams. You see what I'm saying? So if the voter turnout is anything like, if the voter turnout in the general is anything like we're looking at now in the primaries,
so of course in the general there's going to be a more voter turnout. You know, there's going to be more people interested because you know, of course, in the primary, in the primaries, you know, it's always suppressed. You know, not everybody turns out, so there's going to be more voters. But is it going to be that more?
Is it going to be that much more independents and that much more people on the fence as far as to cover that gap between the voter turnout we're witnessing right now in the primaries?
And see, and this is one thing, because we did talk about the campaign strategies and how they differ between Abrams and Evans. It seems as though Abrams was, like I said, trying to talk to like disaffected voters and trying to pull new people in. And while that's all well and good, I mean that's I mean, yeah, we do need people that are not in the voting base, like people that just like either don't know what's going on or don't care to know what's going on, or whatever the case, they're not voting. Yes, we need to pull more Americans into this voting base, you know, into the voting public. But that has not worked. Historically, it has not worked. So I'm not sure that her strategy is better than what, better than the one Evans was trying to implement. Like, I know there, of course, there was some criticism of Evans trying to appeal to Republicans. Hey, why are you trying to go the Republican route? And I guess the white route too. I mean, I guess that would be a criticism too. White people, rural white people that historically have probably always voted Republican.
Trying to appeal to people in a way that doesn't reflect how she actually came up. Like trying to present herself as some sort of regular. She's part of the regular folk, even though she's really not. She's a millionaire herself. How about Evans? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, man, you're definitely gonna need independents. You probably gonna need some moderate Republicans. So that's just the reality of what Georgia politics is in a statewide race. That's just what the reality is. As I don't know, man, it's gonna be a tough race. She's definitely the underdog. But I didn't expect a whooping like that, though.
Seeing as we were talking about how their platforms are so close similar.
I guess those endorsements helped out a lot. Oh goodness. Okay. Well, the guy that we were talking about that was trying to challenge Kim Davis in Kentucky, he lost his bid. David Ermold, he lost his nomination in the Democratic primary to Elwood Caudill. It was like a four-way race, and Caudill will be the nominee for the county clerk. I don't know anything about Caudill. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. Will he do his job? That's all I need to know. Will he do his job? As a county clerk, I think that's all you can really ask for. Will you do your job, right?
Got some firearm arguments going on. I think Lori Reynolds said the father should be held responsible. Obviously, we have to wait for more information.
Yeah, we gotta wait for some more information.
But if that's the case, I would have to agree with that, because that goes along the lines of what I was talking about, how guns are special, right? And guns are a deadly weapon. So and people are held liable if they put their guns in the hands of children when their children do something. So why can't people take more responsibility and care in regard to who they give their weapons to, or if they privately sell their weapons, why can't they be held liable? Because it's a weapon. It's a deadly weapon. It's not like selling like I was about to go back in the day, CD player. I was about to say, you know what I'm saying? Not like, you know what I'm saying, selling some like
insignificant product or something.
A cell phone. Hey, you want to buy my cell phone from me? It's not a deadly weapon. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's fine. I think Moose Gal said something about if you live with anyone that has a mental illness or had a history of mental illness, you cannot own any firearm while living with them. Okay. There's actually 5 states that have laws that allow law enforcement or the government to take away guns if they have proven to be a danger.
Yeah.
No different than like people who have like a domestic violence. Yeah. So we do have gun confiscation laws already. And I don't see a very strong force of I guess some sort of people who are trying to be counter-revolutionaries to such policies in those 5 states. So obviously law enforcement in those 5 states takes the proper steps before they go forth with some sort of confiscation.
The problem is that a few states ain't gonna do anything. You know what I'm saying? That's not addressing the problem.
True.
You know? It's not addressing the problem. Like conservatives always like to run to the Chicago model, you know, Illinois, without addressing that neighboring states are allowed to funnel guns into Illinois. You know, I mean, like how productive are the gun laws going to be when there's lax gun laws in border states? It just doesn't make any sense. Like you're failing to see what the problem is.
Yeah, the problem is not entrances, or the problem is not bullying or whatever else.
Social media. We have to monitor all social media. K through 12. K through 12, man. Mike, do you know the manpower that would...
You're basically saying, like, set up like a almost like another NSA. You would have to. A junior NSA.
And this would be legal?
It'd be, yeah, exactly.
What, because the kids, they don't have rights or something?
Obviously they don't.
It's ridiculous, man. Anyway, all right, so it's just past 10, so we are going to get up out of here. And you know, we do have some stories that we didn't get to, and but you know, we can get to them
on Thursday.
Plus, we have some other stories we have to get to that we know are relevant. One dealing with the Massachusetts primaries, and good old, what's his name? Is it John Lewis? Good old John Lewis,
leader of the pack.
Leader.
The Congressional Black Caucus.
Yes, sir.
Caucus? I call it something else. Sometimes I call it a carcass.
Well, yeah, we have some news about that and who they decided to endorse. We have some news about that. Also, there is another case of, seems to be police brutality. And this is involving an NBA player with the Milwaukee Bucks, a guy by the name of Sterling Brown. Seems that he had a stun gun used on him during some encounter with the police officer late at night. It was in some parking lot, I believe.
Man, it was back on January 26th.
Man. This was in January.
For some reason, even though it's been 4 months, body cam footage just hasn't been released yet. Even though we have seen body cam footage get released within just a snap of a finger before.
Especially when it was used
to exonerate
the
law enforcement from wrongdoing.
Exactly. They came out with that with the quickness, right? But this instance, taking like 4 months. Like
Four
4 months.
man.
But okay, some good news. It seems as though that video footage is going to be released tomorrow on Wednesday.
And from some very influential officials have said, the mayor,
yes,
he said he's seen it and it does not look good.
Everybody that has seen the video has said, like, ooh, this is bad.
But see, do you know what I don't like about that though? They are playing politics.
Oh yes,
they're trying to be like, hey, it looks bad.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Department, do something now before it comes out so it doesn't look bad. Wink, wink.
There was even I don't remember, because like we're gonna do this story on Thursday, hopefully, if that video footage comes out. But I believe it was a member in law enforcement, a law enforcement official that said, hey, you know, we're going to be facing like some trying times in the next couple of days, so we're going to really need a lot of support. Like, what?
You're telling us that your officer bugged.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Like, why would you?
We're going to need support over these trying, like,
and obvious, and you know how, like, not only just awful and selfish that is. Obviously, this official has seen the tape and he knows that his officer was in the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He knows this, but is still wanting you and the public to support them.
Yes, in the face
of being wrong.
Hey, you know we're the good guys, so we want. Come on, we're gonna need your support in these trying times. Like, no. Nah, you know what? Nah. Let's see the video before we just give you some support, because obviously something inappropriate happened.
Another question and answer. Y'all don't know what that's about, but you want to hurry? You want to like end the show so we can get on this? This is an important question and answer.
Yeah, man.
Because there's going to be a lot of answers given that might be, informative to us, right?
Yeah, we like from time to time we get involved in some comments, especially on Facebook, and man, there's some interesting people out there. It's a struggle, man.
It's a struggle out here, man. Not in this day of social media and people being able to engage with each other freely.
Yeah.
Even when they don't live, close to each other. Like you could talk to somebody in Australia. You could talk to somebody in Chicago and Alaska and Sweden, and California, everywhere, man.
It's very interesting though about social media, because I can't see these conversations taking place face to face. Like, it's hard for me to envision the absolute absurdity coming from these individuals and try to envision that happening face to face. That's really hard to envision. Like, when they're behind a computer or their phone and they're just typing away, it's like, man, this mug is just being ridiculous as hell. Like, he's just digging in his heels even though he's wrong. Like, you see that all the time. It's just, it would be really interesting to have one of those conversations like face to face. I don't know that I've had a conversation like that. You know what? No, I digress. I have had at least one. Yep, and that was when the Confederate flag was taken down here in South Carolina at the State House, and I had a conversation with a young woman who was crying. I mean, this woman had to be early 20s. She was crying because the Confederate flag was being taken off the State House grounds, and she said it was about like her grandfather and something, and like heritage. And like, I'm just like looking at her like, you're crying? And I had a kind of like a long conversation. I'm just.
But what does it have to do with? But what does it have to do with your grandfather specifically?
Nothing.
Like specifically.
It was like. It was like watching a new species being born, man. It was like, oh, what?
Like if you
I don't get it.
Like, like if a sports franchise crumbles, right? And your grandfather played for a very long and respected sports franchise. Sports franchise lasted for, I don't know, let's say 100 years or something. Mm-hmm. And your grandfather played for this team for 10 or 15 years. And let's say that sports franchise went away, or that sports franchise was proven to be guilty of some, something. But they were whatever they were practicing or whatever they represented. It could be like, let's say when a university is guilty of like NCAA violations, or when they're guilty of
Penn State
cheating,
Joe Paterno.
Cheating, NCAA violations like paying players, basically just cheating, right? And let's just say, I don't know, the NCAA says y'all got to close up shop. Your program is now gone. I can't be like, my grandfather played for that team. Like, it has nothing to do with your grandfather. It's not like, your grandfather didn't do anything wrong. You see what I'm saying? But in this case, your grandfather did do something wrong.
I know.
In this case, he did. Whether you might say he didn't have a choice, whatever. If he fought for the Confederate Army, whatever, your great-great-grandfather.
But it's just, it just makes no sense, because, I mean, it's like, to be at the state house, it needs to be representative of all people in the state. I mean, that's what it's for. I mean, so, hey, if you want to celebrate your heritage, your specific heritage, and like, family members that have, came before you and they're dead and gone, and for some reason you appreciate something that happened with them in their lifetime, and I guess it's notable on a wide scale level, like, on a state level or a national level, whatever. We always say there's a place for that, and that is the museum. You can always go to the museum. Always. It's always going to be there.
Meaning, like, it's not, like, erased. No. And the whole idea behind people acting as if hate cannot be attached to a heritage kind of baffles me. Like, people say heritage, not hate, as if there is not heritage in hate, as if hate isn't attached to a heritage.
Like that heritage wasn't passed down.
Yeah.
Man, whatever, man. But anyway, like I said, we try to, sometimes we try to tackle some comments. I got bogged down in some comments about capitalism and socialism last night on the page, and I knew it was coming. They always come out of the woodworks as soon as something about socialism comes out, and all the video was about was just like dealing with like falsehoods that's applied to socialism.
And then what happened in the comments? It's like they apparently didn't watch the video because they decided to repeat almost every falsehood.
Yes, exactly. They didn't watch it, of course. And they get socialist policies wrong, and they're like, hey, socialism, nobody works under socialism. That's all. Man, what hole? You see the passion now. You see the anger, right? There was one female that she posted a link, right? Because we're talking about capitalism and socialism, right? And of course, capitalism is all about greed. I mean, it's all about greed, right? She posted a link to a video from PragerU. The video was entitled "Socialism Makes People Selfish." I said, "Oh, okay." Like what do you want me to do with that? What So the problem ain't capitalism.
Exactly, because capitalism obviously hasn't done anything to enhance, let's say, something like greed.
But socialism breeds selfish people.
Isn't kind of the whole idea behind capitalism? Like, isn't that whole kind of concept surrounding consumerism and the individual? Wouldn't that breed kind of selfish notions more so than socialism?
I think at the end of the video it said some shit like capitalism causes people to want to work or something, and socialism causes people to demand stuff from the government or something like. I can't remember the exact way he said it, but it was just so ridiculous. And they even used the ACA. They used the ACA in there to say that you know, you're not liberating people because the insurance, because kids were able to stay under their parents' insurance until the age of, I believe, 26. So they were saying that, hey, you're not liberating people. You're causing them to be dependent, you know? I'm like, you're failing to understand that these mothers won't be able to pay for insurance because of capitalism.
Not only that,
what?
And you're giving an example that doesn't have any context, because usually people are allowed to stay under their parents' insurance until they're like, what, 26? Was it 26?
Yes.
Why? Because they're accounting for students still being in school.
Yeah. And not being able to afford it because of
capital. But not just because of capital.
Not just because of that,
because
but
they're in school.
But even if they, I mean, because a lot of people get out of school, I mean, way before 26, right? A lot of people do. A lot of people do.
Some people go, but some people, everybody doesn't finish like right when they're 21 or 22. Some people it takes longer. Some people go to graduate school. Some people go to try to get their doctorate. So
That's
yeah,
true. But it was a solution to a problem where younger people may not have the necessary funds to pay for health insurance.
And most younger people don't, because they have other things to worry about. Like school.
You're saying that's a bad thing? You're not liberating them. You're not allowing them to not have health insurance. See, that's what you should be doing for these kids. Not giving them health insurance. See, they're liberated.
They're liberated they're liberated to, you know, have, you know, diseases and ailments that they can't treat.
But see,
that's freedom, dog.
Exactly. They'll find some validation in that as a human being.
They'll feel stronger.
Yeah.
They'll feel principled. They'll feel like they've done something in
That's
life.
right.
They'll feel like true Americans.
Yeah, I'm not giving health insurance, man. I feel like I'm doing something in this country now. I mean, like I said, man, like it's just a mess on social media, man. See, those are the times where I come away from conversations and like, you know, this species is done. It's done. The species is done. It's over. It's over.
It's widening, dog.
61% in, and yeah, it's widening.
Not just widening in votes, obviously, but widening in percentage was the most significant number. Because, you know what I'm saying, if it starts to widen as in percentage, that means that she's pulling away like
she wiped the floor with her, man. She wiped the floor with her.
Yeah, mollywop.
Yeah, it's done, man. It's done. Well, anyway, all right, so we're gonna get out of here. We appreciate everybody that joined us for this program on Tuesday night. We appreciate everybody that participated in the chat. Yeah. You know, and just converse with everybody else and gave us things to talk about too and respond to. Appreciate you, Court, for calling in, being the only caller tonight. We would hope that some more callers will call in on Thursday. Hope so. Special shout out to all of our patrons on patreon.com/LTMB. Thank you for what you do for us. We're always going to be appreciative of that. And I think that's all I got, man.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I just, hope that we have an audience, a big audience on Thursday, because we're going to have another round of topics to discuss.
No doubt, man. So everybody have a good night. Gene, Moose Gal, Miss Tree, Grandma Christine, everybody in the chat, man. Like I said, we appreciate you being here with us. Have a good night. We'll see you on Thursday.